Come on, swing with the jive, brother. Come on, swing with the jive, brother. You got to swing with the jive, brother. Yeah, you got to come on with the jumping with the jive, brother. You got to come on with the jive, brother. You got to jumping with the jive, brother. Yeah, you got to come on with the come on. You got to lose all you got if you don't get down to it. You never want to blow your top. Save a nigga, but you never let it jump with the jive, brother. You got to jump with the jive, brother. You got to jump with the jive, brother. Yeah, you got to come on with the come on.
That's a little bit of a different sound to start our day together on this Monday, the 29th of June. But did you pick up what Colin James was singing there in that song? It's his little big band, of course, hence the sound that you hear. But the song is called Come On with the Come On. And I ran into Bruce at a Farwell for Hire event last weekend at Sweet Caroline's, the ice cream and specialty coffee shop on Ottawa near Lackner in Kitchener. And when Bruce came in to see me at Sweet Caroline's, he said, you know, you should play this song by Colin James on your show because it reminded him, the song called Come On with the Come On, of one of my favorite sayings here on the show. Come on with your coming on. Here's the question that the song begs, at least as far as I'm concerned. Who owes whom the royalties? Should it be whom owes who? Could my grade 9 grammar teacher please help me out? Anyone. Someone owes someone else the royalties on that, don't they? As near as I can figure, Colin James and his big band with the song Come On with the Come On came out last year in 2025. I started this show in 2017, Mr. James, sir. So I think maybe you owe the Mike Farwell show a wee bit of royalty on Come On with your coming on. Maybe Colin James would like to make a donation to the Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there for consideration, kind of like we do on this show, right? We put ideas out there for consideration, and we allow you to share your thoughts on those ideas. The minute we start the show every day, our phone lines are open to you at 519-570-2545, star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. It's also worth noting that Colin James and his little big band is a Canadian artist because Wednesday is Canada Day, and today on our regular Monday morning feature, This Week in Music History, musicologist Brian Allison is going to feature all Canadian music on the segment. And to make it even more interesting, Brian is going to join us in studio today. So we will be in studio and interactive at 11 this morning with This Week in Music History. Maybe you've got some Canadian music memories you want to share. Maybe you just want to ask some questions about Canadian music. Maybe something we talk about during This Week in Music History at 11 this morning will inspire you, and you would like to have something to say about it. That's how the show works. It is an ongoing conversation. Really glad that you're here. Hope you are staying cool. If you've heard me complain before about the weather that is opposite this, you will never hear me complain about what we have right now. A beautiful day today, and I know it's going to get hot. I personally like it hot, so I am more than happy to have this weather here. But if it is a bit of a burden for you, please do take the best care that you can as we get hot through this week. It was a really nice weekend, too, and that made it pretty darn easy to take care of the final weekend of Farwell for Hire fundraising activities. We've still got a couple of days to go, today and tomorrow, before things officially wrap up. And more on that in a moment. But over the weekend, on Friday afternoon, I got to meet a loyal listener by the name of Dharmesh, who lives in Kitchener. And Cambridge. He was in Cambridge, but just outside, in a nice area just off Speedsville Road. And I got to go visit him in the afternoon, and we did some yard work together. Dharmesh had promised tandoori chicken and cold beer. I mean, he had me at that, and he still made a donation on top of it. So it was a nice afternoon to meet Dharmesh, his cousin Monish, and we got a chance to chat, do a little bit of yard work together, raise some more money for cystic fibrosis research. And then on Friday night, something that has become something of a tradition here on the show, or during the campaign, that is. And that is somebody saying, you know, you've worked pretty hard for the month. And I don't know that I really have, but hey, I'll take your pity donations anytime you want to hand them out. And some friends had my beloved and I over for a barbecue on Friday night so we could just sit back, relax. There was more cold beer. Now that I think of it, I had myself a few beers on Friday, didn't I? They were very well spaced out. Don't worry. And my beloved drove to dinner. So there you go. Anyway, we were able to do that on Friday evening. And then on Saturday morning, I did my shift at Sweet and Savory Pie Company in Waterloo. Now, you know that the Sweet and Savory Pie Company, along with Dana Short Gourmet and Gifts in Waterloo and Block 3 Brewing in St. Jacobs, all have put together products that we can buy throughout the entire month, with a portion of the sales, the proceeds from, being donated to our campaign. So at Sweet and Savory Pie Company, it's butter tarts, $2 from every dozen sold being donated to Farwell for Hire. At Dana Short Gourmet and Gifts, it's the Hat Trick shortbread cookies, 3 kinds of chips, 3 goals for a hat trick, 3 kinds of chips in those shortbread cookies. I was enjoying some of those on the weekend as well. They are delicious from Dana Short. And of course, at Block 3 Brewing in St. Jacobs, Face for Radio IPA is available for your drinking pleasure, and a portion of the proceeds from sales of that IPA being donated to our campaign. So you still have a couple of days, today and tomorrow, to take advantage of those opportunities. And I loved being out at Sweet and Savory Pie Company on Saturday morning, working alongside the shift. Carson, young fellow that just graduated from Blue Vale, is headed to Lakehead to study earth sciences. Really interesting young man. And of course, Henry, the co-owner, who is the baker extraordinaire in that kitchen. And I've joked often, I don't think I'm far off the mark, though. This fundraising campaign, yes, raises money for important research into cystic fibrosis, but I'm resume building, baby. Like, I get so many different experiences, and I love meeting folks who are running businesses in this community and learning about how they do it, the care that they take in the case of Sweet and Savory Pie Company in creating those pies that you enjoy so much, be they sweet or savory, plus the butter tarts, which are my favorites. But it's just a really cool experience for me. I don't mind getting up early on a Saturday morning and joining the other hardworking folks at Sweet and Savory for a shift. So thanks to Diane and Henry for making that possible. And then Saturday afternoon was fun because an old buddy, we go back, my goodness, well, to high school days, really, where we were in the same school at slightly different times, didn't really cross paths a lot, but we're able to reconnect as we have on social media for many years now. But my buddy Spotty, Ralph Spoltor, is running the Hayloft Music Festival on the August long weekend in Listowel. We were through Listowel yesterday, my beloved and I. Beautiful little town, as you know. Love me some Listy. And Ralph has put together a really good lineup for this Hayloft Music Festival on the August long weekend. He had me out on Saturday afternoon helping to do some promotion for it. So we were in the Uptown. It was like a little army of volunteers going into these various businesses, asking for permission to leave some postcards behind or some posters in the windows. So hopefully you'll see them. But just wanted to let you know about this upcoming Hayloft Music Festival. It's August the 1st and 2nd. So as I said, that August long weekend in Listowel. The Saturday show, country, headlined by Kip Moore. Jana Leduc, a local artist, is part of that lineup as well. And then on Sunday, you're going to get Big Rec, Kim Mitchell, David Wilcox, and more. And it's reasonable, $75, and you're in the door for this Hayloft Music Festival in Listowel on the August long weekend. So I got a chance to spend some time out there and help out with the promotion, catch up with some old friends, and enjoy a beautiful Saturday afternoon. So a very full but fulfilling weekend, certainly moving along with the Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign. And now, well, this is where we are. I feel like I am Kramer in the sitcom Seinfeld. Do you remember that episode where Kramer bet on a horse? Shocking. He probably did it in more than one episode. I actually got the audio this morning, but it didn't translate as well audio only if you didn't see the actions of Kramer. But he bets on a horse. He thinks the horse is losing. He overhears the commentary on the speaker. His horse starts coming back, and there's Kramer just yelling, "Come on, yes, let's go!" And he's making all of the gestures that don't translate well just with the audio. But that's how I feel watching the Farwell for Hire 50-50 jackpot now. Come on, let's go. We're over $140,000. When I got up this morning, we were just over $137,000. So we're up almost $3,000 just this morning, and we've got less than 27 hours to go. We will award the grand prize winner at noon tomorrow. Last year, that winner got $121,000 plus. Right now, the winner, if we made the draw this second, the winner would get $70,000. That is not a bad chunk of change, but we know how these things go. So I've got a couple more jobs to do in and around the community today and tomorrow to add more money to that fundraising total. But really, the next 26 hours and 48 minutes are dedicated to watching this 50-50 jackpot grow. We know they always go a little bit bananas in the final days and final hours. Maybe it's worth noting that last year's winner got his tickets on the morning of the draw. Listen, that doesn't mean you don't have a chance, of course, if you already have your tickets or if you buy them right now. It just means a last-minute Larry, or in this case, Jeff, was the winner last year when he bought his tickets the morning of the draw. That draw happens tomorrow at noon, but you can get tickets anytime. Get in on the excitement. Help us raise a little bit more money for cystic fibrosis research. And there are incentives associated with this, which I'll talk more about before 9:30 this morning. Incentives for you to either embarrass me or make me suffer, probably both in the case of, wearing the jersey of the team that shall not be named. But really, it's all about raising as much money as we can for cystic fibrosis research. And you can get tickets at cf5050.ca. The jackpot is humming already today, and we want to see it get as high as it possibly can. Right now, your take-home prize is more than $70,000. About $50,000 less than it was last year at the end of the draw, but we know that number is going to continue to rise in these final hours. It's a lot of money for cystic fibrosis research, and it's a lot of money for you to be in your pocket as well. Just think for half a minute what you could do with $70,000. That's what's in the jackpot right now. And after you've thought of that for about a half a minute, go buy your tickets at cf5050.ca.
1, 2, 3, 4. Can I have a little more? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I love you.
All right, let's get to your Farwell Show 5 for this Monday morning, the 29th of June. Number one, we are entering a week-long heat wave here in Waterloo region with temperatures expected to soar into the 30s and humidity adding to the burden. Meantime, a heat warning remains in place in a remote community in the Northwest Territories whose residents have been ordered to flee their homes due to a nearby wildfire burning out of control. That blaze is roughly 7 kilometers west of the Fort Simpson Airport in the Northwest Territories and is over 4.2 square kilometers in size. Number two, it's estimated that nearly 60,000 buildings were damaged or destroyed in last Wednesday's deadly twin earthquakes in Venezuela. Amid many aftershocks, search and rescue efforts continue in desperation today, with more international help arriving in the hardest hit areas. The government puts the death toll at over 1,400, but there's word some 50,000 people are listed as missing. Number three on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Canada's United Nations Ambassador David Lametti says artificial intelligence has taken up between 10 to 15% of his time since he took up the role last November. Lametti says there's, quote, definitely alignment on the need for safety in AI, as well as concerns from emerging countries that they may be left behind, particularly those in Asia. Lametti tells the Canadian press, and again I quote, AI governance is something that the UN has to do, has a responsibility to do. Number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. It's taken about 2 years since the plan was approved, but demolition is finally underway in Cambridge to bring a new ambulance station to the city. Crews and heavy machinery are tearing apart the old Kinsman building on Concession Road, just south of Eagle Street. The new ambulance station will cost a little more than $12 million. You can see some photos of the demolition on our website, kitchener.citynews.ca. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Yes, it's true. Canada is through to the round of 16 at the World Cup after beating South Africa 1-0 in the first knockout game of the tournament. Stefan Eustachios scored in the second minute of second half stoppage time to give Canada the victory. The team got a boost in the 75th minute when captain Alphonso Davies came on, marking the first time the Bayern Munich star has played in the tourney. Canada will next play on July the 4th in Houston, meeting the winner of today's match between the Netherlands and Morocco.
You go to the box, you feel shame.
And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Monday morning, the 29th of June. A quick time out. When we come back, it's time for your morning wake-up call. Either you can make it or I will. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. A couple of things on my mind this morning. One of them right here in the region, Kitchener to be exact. The other in Ottawa, but impacts us all for sure. And we all likely have a thought or an opinion on it. Let's start right in the city of Kitchener. And you may have heard during All News Mornings today with Mark Douglas and Josh Piercy in for Christine Clark, who's enjoying some vacation time this week. But Mark and Josh were talking about, and our reporter Marshall Crocker was actually reporting on the story, but the Urban Good Funeral Home and its relocation to Victoria Street in Kitchener. If you know Victoria Street, which I'm sure you do, in this particular area, it's where the Home Hardware used to be. That's where the Urb and Good Funeral Home is going to be relocating from its place on King Street. I think we're at King Street South by the time we get to Urban Good, where it has sat for quite some time near King and William. I always get where they change east, west, north, south for King and Weber and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure it's King South. Anyway, it is a long-standing local business, although I'm almost certain, like I'm 99.8% certain at this point that it's Urban Good in name only still. I don't think either family, neither the Herbs nor the Goods, are still involved, other than just keeping the name on it for tradition's sake. And I understand that, and reputation's sake, it makes a lot of sense. But nonetheless, the Urban Good relocation to Victoria Street in Kitchener, where a Home Hardware used to be, and the questions being asked and the decision that Kitchener Council will have to make about allowing a crematorium and the associated building and emissions that come with that. I find this really interesting because it wasn't all that long ago that another funeral home, not far from where Urban Good is relocating on Victoria Street, was asking also to have a crematorium permitted on its property. And that would be the Henry Walzer Funeral Home on Frederick Street, near Bruce or near Edna, in between anyway, right where the Frederick Street Bridge is currently out of commission. But a couple of years maybe back, Henry Walzer was applying for the same sort of permissions, and the neighborhood really reacted negatively and pushed back, and there was a lot of concern. And you're what, 3 or 4 maybe big city blocks away when you get to where the Urban Good Funeral Home will be, and There's an application for a crematorium there. And then not much further down Victoria Street, in and around Farwell Road, right? There is another, I think it's the Kitchener Crematorium. Forgive me if I've got the name wrong, but anyway, that's a whole lot of crematoriums in one relatively small geographic area. My gut tells me the application will be permitted on Victoria Street with Urban Good, but there was so much pushback not that far away at Henry Walzer. I don't know. This seems to be the direction that the industry is moving, but it seems here that what might be good for the goose was not good for the gander earlier when it comes to the previous application from the Henry Walzer Funeral Home. Interesting stuff. The other thing I wanted to touch on this morning was the news that came out while we were in the midst of our conversations on Fridays, and that, or on Friday, pardon me, and that is the news from Prime Minister Mark Carney that 24 Sussex will be redeveloped, renovated, brought back up to a standard that is fitting the political leader of this country. It's worth noting, first of all, that even though it's Mark Carney as Prime Minister making this decision to move forward on this project, he will never benefit from it, so to speak, because he will no longer be Prime Minister by the time the work is done. In other words, he will not live in that house. I don't believe so anyway. But this comes with political risk, of course, because when you're talking about spending tens of millions of Canadian taxpayers' dollars, it's not exactly the most politically palatable thing to do. And that's why previous prime ministers, goes back many, have just continued to ignore this official residence. And it's, quite frankly, it's about damn time somebody had the courage to step up and do this. What I don't love about it, it's so Canadian of us, isn't it? We're going to have a design competition, then we're going to have a fundraiser. Like, why don't we just do it? But for me, again, I've never met two nickels that I didn't want to rub together, right? And I want to save as much money as I can and not be excessive in our spending, particularly when it comes to governments. But this, to me, is more than that. And I understand that, Canada is such an interesting place. But at the age we are now, right, coming up on 160 years, how can we not have a residence like this that is a national symbol of what our government is all about? I understand, again, because Canada is such an interesting place. You've got the whole Quebec separatist idea. You've got some Western separatism now, but definitely Western alienation. And Ottawa itself and Ontario really is seen as this place of so-called Laurentian elites. And of course, if the elites have a fancy mansion for the prime minister to live in, I understand that sentiment. But what I hope we can come to all agree upon here and recognize is that the official residence of the prime minister is a symbol of who we are as a nation, of our maturity, of the importance that we place upon the government of the day. Could you imagine Downing Street in the UK being left in shambles like this? Could you imagine the White House being in shambles like this? Other nations get it. And I don't know why we historically have not gotten it here. But I applaud the Prime Minister for having the courage to step forward and saying, we're going to get this done, even though I don't love the method by which we're going to try to get it done. I mean, design competition to fundraiser. I think we're putting up some obstacles to an efficient some efficient progress right off the hop, but nonetheless, a worthwhile investment. This should be, I would like to think, a symbol of national unity and national pride from one coast to the other to the other. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I probably do not need to remind you of the tragic circumstances around the death of a man from our region just a couple of weeks ago. All he was doing was cutting his neighbor's grass, and a vehicle traveling along the road where he was doing his yard work struck him, killing him, and bringing residents back to North Dumfries Township Council appealing for help, appealing for traffic calming. This fatal collision happened on Clyde Road in the village of Clyde, and sadly, this fatal collision is not the first. The previous goes back many years now, but while this fatal collision has just happened, there have been documented instances of vehicles speeding, people being injured time and again on this same stretch of road. And as I said, it falls into the purview of North Dumfries Township in our community, connecting people really from Cambridge into Flamborough and the Hamilton area. But it's an ongoing concern for residents, and this latest tragedy, sadly, that's what it takes to get us to this point. But here we are, once again, opening the conversation about how to slow down drivers on what has become a very dangerous stretch of road. Dave Broadhagen is one of those residents along Clyde Road, and he joins us to talk about the issues. And Dave, I wondered if we could just start kind of in a high-level way about the concerns that you have about traffic on your street. What are they?
Safety. It all boils down to safety. We've had 5 serious accidents in the 200-yard stretch that I live in, and of that, there's been 2 deaths.
And the most recent of those
was Nathan.
Yes. Nathan, right? And I watched the council meeting where your community's presentation was made, and it sounds as though you're pretty convinced that this was another speeding vehicle.
Oh, it was. It was 200 kilometers an hour when it went past my place and hit him. You could see from my driveway where he got hit, and there's not a skid mark. There's nothing. I mean, she came over that hill, and she was 16 years old apparently, and she had a brand new Beamer, which is either daddy's or where she got it, I don't know, because I doubt very much at 16 she's going to be able to afford a Beamer.
This has been a long-standing problem for your village.
It has.
How far back does this go, and how many times have you made the township aware of your concerns?
Well, I'm not the only one. I've been there since 2005, and each year it's getting worse. They have definitely gone to them before. They were going to do a study. We saw nothing. And then the council meeting the other night, there was comment of another study. Well, we don't need another study. We need road bumps. We need road humps or bollards or something that's going to be permanent to slow these idiots down.
For those that might not know the road as well, Dave, describe the landscape to us. Like, what is it that maybe incentivizes people to speed like they do?
It's the shape of the road. There's constant ups and downs and undulating, and what they do is they race along there, and when they hit the edge of these drops, they become airborne, and I'm sure that's what the kids are getting their high from. But I'm not sure that it's only the road. I think it's more the kids are not being taught safety. They're not being taught road safety because the police can't go into the schools anymore because the police, they're traumatizing my kid. Well, what do you think just happened to this whole family? And the other individuals that were in her car, they all got up and hightailed it away from the scene. The police were out there with a helicopter, tracking them down.
I did think about that aspect of this with a 16-year-old driver allegedly at the wheel here. Imagine that young person's life from here forward. What a tragic set of circumstances. Mm-hmm.
It's not only hurt the Smith family, she's not going to be the same from now on. The kids that were with her I would hope that they're not going to be the same, that they've learned something from it, because it's not a joyride. You know, you don't go 200 kilometers an hour and expect nothing to happen. Like, there wasn't even a skid mark on the road. She went flying right through the air, past my driveway, and she hit Nathan on the side of the road where he was cutting the grass.
And this is mid-afternoon on a weekday, wasn't it?
It was 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of the Smith family, Nathan's daughter, Jasmine, wrote a very powerful letter that one of your community members shared at the council meeting the other night. And so that speaks to, you know, she does not believe her father had to die, and I tend to agree with this.
No, she was raised there for probably 8 years, I think, before she went. Her grandparents live in Australia, one set of Nathan's parents, and she was there, and she was going to school there. And so she had to come all the way back here. And she had to arrange her own flights and everything through the Pilots Association. Thank goodness they took care of arranging everything for her. Because she's maybe 20 now. And it's a shame, but they were very close.
This is a road that is posted at 50 kilometers per hour. 50.
And that's part of the problem with this whole strip of road, because they come from Cambridge, which is a 50, then they hit an 80, and then as they come into a Clyde, it goes down to 60, and then when they reach the center of Clyde, it goes down to 50 until you're way out in the country. So nobody recognizes it as 50.
They might be recognizing it more as that 80.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you, as a community, like to see happen here to improve the road safety?
We want any calming measures we can get. If it's better road painting, which it should be, there should be no passing. There should be signs, no passing at all. Because my wife stood outside yesterday, and they came over the hill from beside our property where Nathan was hit, and a truck passed a vehicle that was going eastbound on a solid line right in front of our property. It doesn't seem that they're taught anything now about driving, about safe driving. And the police used to go into the schools and show what can happen with a vehicle accident and whatever, and the consequences of it. But they had to stop because the poor kids were getting traumatized. Well, traumatize yourself. The parents need to stop trying to be these kids' friends. They're not their friends. They're their disciplinarians. They're the parent. They're the one setting the example. And they got to learn that you know, they're not out there to do whatever they want. There's no consequences for their actions. This group of individuals is going to find out there is.
Speaking of police, you and I had been talking earlier about a stunt driving charge laid of a vehicle doing 117 in this 50. The challenge here, like, that's great that somebody was caught, but that's the person that got caught. We know how many others are probably flying through your village without getting caught.
Exactly. And I used to think, well, it's strictly because the last few accidents have been teenagers, all teenagers. Two young lads, they lost control and the driver died. And then Nathan, they lost control and Nathan died. But this other woman that you're referring to, the 117, is a 51-year-old woman. She should know better. They just seem to think that it's a Grand Prix of Cambridge going through there. It's a shame.
I know that North Dumfries Council was able to get you on the agenda in short order earlier this week so you could make this presentation, but how do you feel about the outcome?
Well, my comment to our alderman, which was in our previous meeting of just the residents, was, okay, now we've got all kinds of things that we can do. When are you going to do them? And they said they had 3 temporary bumps. Well, that's not enough. You got a 4-point intersection, and they're speeding on every part of that 4 coming into Cambridge. So you're going to have to do all 4. So 3 is not going to make it. And you need more than one on those roads because they're just, it's crazy driving. They just go to speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down.
What more do you think the township needs to finally take action? How many people have to die here, Dave?
Well, I'd hate to think of anybody having to die, but that obviously is a serious issue. And I don't want anybody to die. So,
hopefully, council gets the message and something is done quickly, because I don't think there's any time to waste here, given the concerns that you've documented.
And permanent solutions, like four-way stops, bigger signs, but I think it's the training of the individuals, it's the education of the individuals, and that doesn't come just from our schools. That comes from the police, that comes from the parents. Parents can't walk away. Their kids aren't, this isn't a little computer game that they're playing, racing around from corner to corner. This is real lives they're dealing with.
Thanks for raising the issue, and thanks for being here for the show.
You're quite welcome.
Dave Broadhagen is a resident on Clyde Road in North Dumfries Township, where speeding vehicles have been an ongoing problem. If we go back to reference that letter written by Nathan Smith's daughter, Nathan Smith was the man mowing his neighbor's lawn when he was fatally struck by a passing vehicle on Clyde Road. And the daughter from his letter suggested that if she had $1 for every time she heard a vehicle speeding past her home on Clyde Road, she could buy her own home on the road. Exaggerated to make a point, but that point is, it is a common occurrence and has been for many, many years now. I support the school resource officer program. I'm not certain that there's a connection between the cancellation or at least postponement of that program and speeding vehicles. I don't remember school resource officers doing a whole lot in the way of road safety education, but I absolutely support residents of this road and of the township. And quite frankly, I'm bewildered that the response from North Dumfries Council last week, when this issue was brought before them and all of the evidence was documented about speeding vehicles, going back to last fall when 4 teens were injured, this fatal collision involving Nathan Smith, a speeding driver caught by regional police, charged with stunt driving. You know that is just the person who got caught, right? So others are clearly speeding on that road. And the response from North Dumfries Township Council was, we're going to conduct a road safety analysis. With all due respect, residents have done that analysis for you. They are telling you how unsafe the road is. Surely we can just move forward as quickly as municipally possible and get some traffic calming here. If the city of Kitchener can add bollards to my residential street in their city virtually overnight, where there's been 0 collisions, and that's meant to slow down vehicles and calm traffic, we can get the same things onto these roads in North Dumfries Township. Council, you got to act on this. What would you do to slow down drivers on Clyde Road through Cambridge into North Dumfries? Would love to hear your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I'm not the only one. I've been there since 2005, and each year it's getting worse. They have definitely gone to them before. They were going to do a study. We saw nothing. And then the council meeting the other night, there was comment of another study. Well, we don't need another study. We need road bumps. We need road humps or bollards or something that's going to be permanent to slow these idiots down.
That is Dave Broadhagen, a resident of Clyde Road. And that clip you just heard was the perfect clip from the conversation we just had, pulled by Devin Robertson, who is our guy on the other side of the glass today. We don't need another study. Residents of this road have been clear with North Dumfries Council, and for whatever reason, Council said, we're going to conduct a road safety analysis. Again, it's been done. The residents have told you how unsafe it is. Somebody tragically just died on that road. And all signs point towards another speeding vehicle being at the root of this. Enough analysis, because we're suffering from paralysis by analysis. Time for some traffic calming. It is that simple from where I'm sitting, but I'd love to know what it sounds like to you. Let's go to the phones and find out. Tony, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
I'm lovely, thank you.
Good.
So road safety, what is the penalty for stunt driving?
I do believe at stunt driving, your car is immediately impounded. I think it's 7 days.
And your license suspended for how long?
You might know better. Are you
Like 30
days? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's not a deterrent. Like they're driving around with a loaded weapon.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Like I think like 15 days jail time, your license suspended for 6 months a year, and your vehicle impounded for 60 days. Like
30-day driver's license suspensions, 14-day roadside vehicle impoundment, and then fines up to $10,000. So, yeah, we're in the right track there. And I hear you, Tony. Loaded weapon's a good way to put it.
Big deal, right? I mean, okay, I'm not gonna be able to drive for a while, so eventually I might kill somebody. What's the big deal?
So you want stiffer penalties for stunt driving?
Put them in jail for 15 days, and they'll start to smarten up.
Yeah. Tony, really appreciate that call and those sentiments. And I know Tony lives rurally, so perhaps he sees this quite a bit as well. We hear about it often in our townships, don't we? And Tony says, behind bars, scare them straight, so to speak. Let's find out what Kathy thinks. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning. Well, I agree with the previous caller, too. When I moved where I am now, I ran into a problem on my property. I had 8 times in the first year and a half that I lived here. Vehicles missed the stop sign, flew over the ditch, belly flopped on my lawn, and flew every which way, hit trees.
And where is that, Kathy? Sorry, which township, what rural area?
Well, this would be Oxford County,
okay.
The roads I was talking about.
Yep.
But I was talking to East Dora Tavistock as well.
Sure, yeah.
Anyhow, because it was a county road, I got some changes made. But
what changes were made?
On that too. Now, this is what I was told.
But Kathy, what changes did you get made? I'm curious, because this is what North Dumfries could do, I think.
I'm a T intersection. I'm not a straight through. So that's a little bit different because they were missing a stop sign. I got street lights at the corner. I got the stop ahead sign has an amber light flashing on it all the time. The stop sign has 2 red lights flashing on it all the time. And I couldn't get rumble strips on the road because they make too much noise and there were too many residents nearby. So
interesting.
instead I said, well, can't you paint? When I go into the region, they have the white lines painted, stop or whatever. I said, can't you do that? They did do that. And with all those improvements, I haven't had one for the last couple of years. But I had to go through the hoops where the OPP were even telling me, report it. And I was. And I found out that the provincial government, Ministry of Transportation, regulates all signage on the different types of roads. And you've got to go through criteria to qualify to be able to make changes.
Yeah, I understand that point for sure, particularly when it comes to road signs, speed limits, etc. In this particular case, we are talking about traffic calming measures. A municipality can undertake that work on its own, and maybe some painting on the road that says slow the bleep down would be one way. But really, again, I will just point to, because this utterly fascinates me, there are bollards on the street where I live. They appeared a few years ago, obviously, to slow down traffic, calm traffic, whatnot. And there's never been a fatal collision, much less a speeding ticket, issued on the street where I live. But the city of Kitchener found a way to put those suckers up virtually overnight. And North Dumfries Township Council is telling residents of Clyde Road that they need to do a road safety analysis before they can do anything. Put some bollards down, create some speed bumps, whatever it's going to take. This road is dangerous. And the longer you wait, the greater the likelihood of that danger reoccurring. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I hope you heard us talking last week about ground being broken in the city of Waterloo on what is this country's largest affordable housing project. It is a plan for roughly 1,000 new homes on land brought forward by the city of Waterloo near Rim Park on University Avenue, Country Squire Road, in and around that area. It's all part of the larger Build Now initiative, which was launched a couple of years back, almost a few now. I think we were 2023, but the plan was maybe 2024. Yeah. Anyway, plan is 10,000 affordable, attainable homes in this community by 2031. And the first 1,000 or so of those to be built on that land put up by the city of Waterloo so that the construction can happen. Ground was broken on the first phase of that 1,000 unit complex last week, and it will be Union Community Housing leading this first phase. Sean Campbell is the executive director with Union Community Housing and joins us to talk about it. Sean, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
So this first phase, 85 homes, is what you intend to build in phase one. What does this project look like from Union Community Housing's perspective?
Yeah, and definitely more than intend. Ground has been broken. There are folks on site already starting construction now. So we're so excited. 85 new homes in our community that will be permanently affordable and owned by a not-for-profit. These are homes that will support folks in the general community that are able to live independently, but just can't afford to stay in our community anymore as rents continue to increase. We'll also make sure that there are homes available for folks that we know face multiple overlapping barriers to accessing housing, like adults with developmental disabilities, women and their children who have experienced abuse, and refugees as well. So, making sure that these are homes available for everyone who needs them, as well as targeting those who face the most challenges accessing homes.
Permanently affordable, Sean. How do we ensure that is the case?
This is really intentional right from the start when the city of Waterloo selected Build Now Waterloo Region, a Habitat for Humanity-led project, making sure that the affordable homes are owned by not-for-profit. So in our case, with this first building, these are 85 homes owned by a not-for-profit, by Union Community Housing, with a specific mandate to keep these homes affordable forever. We also then have an agreement with Habitat for Humanity and Build Now Waterloo Region that makes sure that we meet that commitment. And that's how we ensure that these homes stay affordable forever.
How does this fit into the Union Community Housing model that you've started, Sean?
Yeah, so Union Community Housing, or folks may remember Union Cooperative, which is our slightly more established housing organization, has the purpose of buying, building, and preserving affordable homes and community spaces. So we're excited that, here we get to do exactly that. We're building 85 new homes for our community, but we're also going to, and this is the first time for us, have affordable community spaces too. And these are ground floor commercial areas that will be purposely affordable and selecting small businesses, social purpose businesses, and worker-owned businesses like worker cooperatives, where, we're not just providing affordable homes for people, but also for those arts organizations, the coffee shops, those really interesting places or spaces that will make this a great addition to our community and a great place to live. So in terms of Union Community Housing, Union Cooperative, we're sister organizations working side by side. Union Cooperative has raised money from the community to buy existing apartment buildings and keep those affordable. And a few years back, I was on your show here to talk about 2 apartment buildings in Kitchener that we purchased with the support of over 250 members of our community. This new construction is owned by Union Community Housing, which is a nonprofit, and building with the support of the city of Waterloo and different government partners as well.
I'm glad you emphasized and clarified at the outset, Sean, that this isn't an intention to build, but ground has been broken and construction is now underway. These 85 homes, what do they look like? What does this phase one of the Build Now project look like? Stacked towns, detached? What is the model here?
This will be a 6-story rental apartment building. So at 6 stories, these are great. These are buildings that you can walk up to, feel really attached to as you're walking on the street, as well as folks that are living in the building as well. This will be part of this overall bigger community that Habitat for Humanity and Build Now are leading. So we're talking about a whole new neighborhood that's being constructed with really fantastic amenities, including new park spaces, more of these ground floor commercial spaces that I mentioned before, and really integrated into the surrounding community, including all of those great trails that follow behind Rim Park and some of the new community infrastructure we know is coming, including a nearby grocery store that should be started within the next few years.
You talk about that larger Build Now project, and as I said at the outset, it's roughly 1,000 homes in this area, so this represents close to a tenth of them. But do you enter this first phase, Sean, with an eye to how this will ultimately integrate into that larger housing community?
Absolutely, and that's been a really exciting part of this project. That this is not just the creation of one building. This is really about creating a new community. And to Habitat and Build Now's credit, they've been really focused on that right from the start, that this is about building a world-class space, so bringing in experts from across Canada and around the world, talk about how do we create an active community where folks want to live, where, these are places that really change how people think about affordable homes and community spaces. So we're really excited that, yes, this is a big step with this first building, but it's really about the neighborhood and the community that's being constructed.
How does Union Community Housing make this project work? I assume there was some sort of request for tenders, et cetera, and you were the winning applicant of some sort. But how does this all work for Union Community Housing?
We're really thankful that the city of Waterloo took a big leadership role here. They decided to allocate this portion of land, over 20 acres of land right next to Rim Park, for affordable housing. And so a few years back, they put out a request for proposal, or an RFP, and Build Now responded. We were fortunate that the city of Waterloo selected the Build Now application, and Union Community Housing is part of the Build Now committee. And with that, we were able to start working with the city of Waterloo on creating this plan for this large and active development in Waterloo. So by combining both the land that's contributed by the city of Waterloo, as well as different provincial and federal funding opportunities, we're able to build these 85 new affordable homes that will, again, be affordable forever.
Ground broken last week, construction underway. When do we anticipate these homes to be ready to move in, Sean?
We actually had to apologize at the groundbreaking because we had started construction the week before. We were just that excited. So we are pushing hard in order to create a great building, but also to make sure that folks are able to move in soon. We're expecting fall of 2027. So not this fall, but next fall, folks should be moving into these new homes.
It's a great story, part of a great project, and I just love all of the collaboration around this larger Build Now initiative. Sean, appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks, Mike.
Sean Campbell is the Executive Director of Union Community Housing. Just on the point of Union Community Housing and Union Co-op, which you may have heard about before, Sean made reference to it. I've known this young man in this community for many, many years now. He continues to impress. The whole Union Co-op, Union Community Housing model is impressive as all get out, because it is about as grassroots as it gets, with members of the community coming together to ensure that existing buildings in some cases remain affordable, and now taking the lead on this first phase of a larger Build Now initiative in the city of Waterloo. Waterloo, the city itself, is obviously an important partner in all of this. Habitat for Humanity Waterloo region kind of oversees all of it. And then you've got all of the builders that are under that Build Now umbrella. And it's really impressive stuff. And to see it come off the paper and into the ground with construction now beginning is, I mean, it's kind of a big deal, right? This is, as we pointed out at the outset, the largest affordable housing project of its kind in the entire country. Now, in fairness, and my mind is telling me, I'm sorry I didn't double check my notes, but I'm pretty sure it was 2024 that we first talked about this, because the pledge was 10,000 affordable homes in 7 years. And as I recall the math we were doing then, that would obviously take us to 2031. If we're getting in the ground 2 years later on the first 85 of 10,000, we're a long way away, and I think that was a stretch goal to begin with. However, it is important progress to see. It is a demonstration of what can be accomplished when there are enough willing partners who come together and work towards that common goal. And again, that common goal being, with the entire Build Now initiative in this first phase of it, is to ensure that the housing remains affordable forever. We are in a point, and you know this as well as I do, that housing in this community and in so many others has become unattainable even to people with full-time professional jobs that they earned after achieving a post-secondary degree or diploma. That old path that we used to follow clearly is not the same path anymore. And you have people working in healthcare, you have people working in education, you have people working in so many different sectors, full-time gainful employment, that simply can't get into the housing market. This is one way that they will be able to do so. I know in the context of the greater 10,000 homes that Build Now has pledged to create, 85 is that proverbial drop in the bucket, but I think it's absolutely worth celebrating the success, because again, it demonstrates what can be done when a municipality like Waterloo and a building community, right, all of the builders that are involved in this, doing work at cost or pledging to do so. And then you've got organizations like Union Community Housing, Habitat for Humanity, Waterloo Region, all in collaboration to ensure that we have these affordable homes in our community for today, and they stay tomorrow. And it's a pretty big deal that construction is underway on phase one. So we'll celebrate that success even as we wait for the next 9,115 homes under that, or 9,915 homes under that 10,000 home pledge. All right, just before we take a break and get to your daily reminder that not everyone is a jackwagon, and this reminder was literally dropped off in my driveway on the weekend. That story to come. But you would have heard Mark Douglas mention during the 10 o'clock update from the 570 News Center that we are into the final hours. We're just over 24 hours. In fact, we are about 25 hours and a half away from awarding somebody a whole heck of a lot of money in the Farwell for Hire 50-50 raffle. The jackpot has been moving very quickly today. We're up almost $5,000 in the jackpot since I first looked at it when I got up this morning, a little before 6 o'clock. That means $2,500 has been added to the take-home prize. That take-home prize now more than $71,000. The jackpot more than $142,000. I want you to win lots of money. I do. It's as simple as that. Selfishly, I want to raise a lot of money for cystic fibrosis research as well. And we're having some fun along the way here. So if you would like to, if this is incentive enough to either embarrass me or make me suffer, maybe both together, here are the opportunities that we are presenting to you. If that jackpot, now at $142,250, makes it to $150,000, I will do a Hot Ones Challenge live on the air where I eat increasingly hot chicken wings while trying to continue hosting the show. I don't do well with spicy foods. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm going to do that, and I will do that while wearing a jersey of the team that shall not be named. So you can see it on Rogers TV. We'll post it. I won't try to fool you with radio smoke and mirrors here. I will wear the jersey and eat the wings while hosting the show if the jackpot gets as high as $150,000. If it gets to $200,000, I am going to make the team that shall not be named my team for next season. I will cheer for that team, and you will be able to mention that team's name on the show. I don't have many rules on this show, but that's one of them. Thou shalt not name the team that shall not be named. But you could do it next hockey season, NHL season, if the jackpot gets to $200,000. And if it gets to $250,000, I will wear that jersey of the team that shall not be named while walking in the KW Oktoberfest Thanksgiving Day Parade this fall. If the jackpot gets to $250,000. It's all up to you from here. I want you to win lots of money. I want cystic fibrosis research to get lots of money. The jackpot's moving fast today, and you can get tickets at cf5050.ca. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I have no idea why I am surprised in any way that a simple Facebook post could lead to what ended up in my driveway on the weekend. But I guess it just goes to show that I, too, need to be reminded every once in a while that not everyone is a jackwagon.
Not everyone's a jackwagon. Not every heart is cold. Not every promise made to you is gonna turn to gold then fold. Some people mean it when they say they care. Some folks will show up, actually be there. So don't close the door on every soul you meet. Not everyone's a jackwagon on this street.
Back in December the 23rd of 2025, to be exact, so just over 6 months ago, I made a post on our show's Facebook page. You may remember it. And by the way, if you're not following our show's Facebook page, what's the matter with you? Just go on Facebook, look up The Mike Farwell Show. And the post I shared, I know it was December the 23rd of 2025, because the person at the center of this story shared a screenshot of the Facebook post. And I showed a picture of my favorite outdoor Christmas decoration. The problem being that it's not at my house. My neighbor has it. And I've always thought of maybe just for fun, because I get along very well with this neighbor, of kidnapping said outdoor decoration and bringing it to my place and holding it ransom and just having a little bit of holiday fun. But I don't know. That would be fun for me. I don't know about the person who actually owns this outdoor Christmas decoration, which is a small plastic Santa. Not an inflatable. He's holding some puppies, and it's just a wonderful thing I've always liked. So on the weekend, I'm out doing my Farwell for Hire duties, and I get home on Saturday afternoon, and my beloved says to me, there's something in the driveway. I don't know what it is, but it's got an envelope with your name on it. And so I go outside, and I see this thing all wrapped up in 2 big plastic bags. And I open the envelope, and this is what it says. Hi, Mike. Like you say, it should be Christmas every day of the year, which is how I started this segment. Not everyone is a jackwagon, because the holiday season, we're filled with the holiday spirit. We always talk about, why doesn't this last all year? So in our own little way, every day around 10:20, we bring you a segment like this to remind you that the spirit does exist even when it's not Christmas time. And we call it Not Everyone is a Jackwagon. And the letter goes on to read, I found this cute Santa in all places, Tecumseh, Ontario, and remembered that you liked your neighbor's Santa just like this one. Merry Christmas 6 months early, and hopefully when Christmas comes this year, you'll find the perfect spot to display him. Thanks for all you do all year long, and I know Farwell for Hire will be another huge hit this year. All my best always, Donna. Farwell's Force, member number 2, and Donna's mom, Mrs. Smiley, too. Donna's mom will always be Mrs. Smiley to me. I'm going to just leave aside for a moment, because I know Donna is well connected, how she found my home address, but nonetheless, the plastic illuminated Santa was left in my driveway on the weekend, all because of a Facebook post I made back at Christmas time talking about how much I liked it. And Farwell's Force, a force for good, right, is our reminder today. Thank you, Donna, Farwell's Force, member number 2, for the gift I will cherish forever, and it will absolutely be proudly displayed at the Farwell home this upcoming holiday season. I promise you that. There's also a picture of the Santa that Donna brought to me on our Facebook page. Just look up The Mike Farwell Show on Facebook. Follow along. And Donna, a Farwell's Force member, Force for Good, reminds us that not everyone is a jackwagon. This is The Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, you just heard Hutch say it, and listen, let's be honest. I've been saying it all month long. We've been getting great support from the 570 News Radio team. It is Farwell for Hire month. Farwell for Hire is an annual fundraiser that raises money for cystic fibrosis research, and one of the parts of that fundraising is the Farwell for Hire 50-50 raffle, a take-home jackpot now more than $71,000. The overall jackpot more than $142,000. This is a cause that's very near and dear to my heart because cystic fibrosis impacted my family. And the pledge from our family after we lost two of my sisters to this disease was to do what we could to ensure that other families had better outcomes and had some support as they navigate this disease. So just to help you understand it better, I've got Dylan Tarnowski in studio with me, and Dylan is a cystic fibrosis father, we shall say. And I really appreciate you making the time to help us drive home this message and let folks understand what this is all about, Dylan. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome, Mike. It's my pleasure.
Your son, Jackson, right?
That's correct.
How did you learn that Jackson had cystic fibrosis?
We learned that Jackson had cystic fibrosis 7 days after he was born. And the diagnosis came when he had his bilirubin test come back to us. And our midwife gave my partner a call. She was sitting in an armchair nursing him. And you could just see as the call was taken, the look on her face really changed. And I didn't know that I had the cystic fibrosis gene in my family history. She didn't expect that on hers either. And the first questions that came to our mind immediately is, well, what does this mean for us moving forward? And we went to McMaster Children's Hospital. We did our genetic testing, met with the wonderful team over there to understand where we were headed, what his life, the track that he would be on. And at the time, Dr. Petter over there said, it's hard to hear, but if there was ever a time to be born with CF, this is the time that probably would have the better trajectory for that, for your son. And it's cold comfort. Didn't really understand what that meant, but we knew that there were advancements in drug therapy that were right on the horizon, not available yet. And that gave us just kind of a glimmer to kind of hold on to and think about, will he be able to have a life that is as long as I expect to live and my partner expects to live. And we drove home back from Mac on that day. It was a very quiet drive. And we pulled into our driveway and broke down pretty quickly. And after that visit to Mac, we had a real resolve inside of us that we weren't going to outlive our son and do whatever it takes to make sure that he gets the care that he needs and the therapies available. And from that day on, I've been working with CF Canada as an advocate in Ontario to meet with representatives here in Waterloo region to drive home the point that everyone who has CF should have the chance to live their fullest lives, and nothing should stop that from happening. And we've had very great reception here. Orkambi was the first modulator that he was on at 2.5 years old. And we were fortunate enough to have private insurance from our employers cover that burden. And then when Trikafta was announced as well, we were able to have him qualify for that, thanks to our team at Grand River Hospital making that recommendation, advocating for us. And he's been on that for the last number of years and is doing very well. But there are so many others that aren't qualified yet. There might be financial burden standing in the way. There might be therapies that don't work for them. Trikafta might not work. The latest, the left trek, which is being held up right now from being available to many Ontarians. They're folks that are waiting for their moment of peace in their life and a little bit more certainty that they can be on a track where that burden is eased a little bit and they can see the positive benefits of some of these drugs coming forward to them.
I love hearing about the clinical teams that were so supportive, and I'm not surprised about this. We know some great research is being done right here in Canada, some of the very best. We know that these teams exist. McMaster, you talk about the Waterloo Regional Health Network too with our local CF clinic, etc. As a parent, though, you're learning this, you feel that support for sure. But I'm also pretty sure you kind of go down that bit of a rabbit hole where you're overwhelmed with all this information about this thing, cystic fibrosis, which you had not heard of before.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. The first I had heard of cystic fibrosis when I was younger, and it was of a television ad. They were doing a fundraising campaign when I was in my early 20s, and I hadn't thought about it until the day he was diagnosed, and the ad ran, and it was of a young boy and a young girl, and they deflated, and the ad portrayed the CF as feeling like you're drowning on the inside. And I hadn't thought about those words until 30 seconds after my partner told me about the diagnosis, and just the heaviness and the fear that comes over you as a parent. You want to do everything for your young child that's days old, and you already have a understanding, you have thoughts in your heads of what their life will be like. When you're expecting, you think, I want them to have their mother's eyes and, my sense of humor or whatever, but you never think of something that's hidden within your gene code that you don't know until that moment, and no one asks for that. And you pass on everything. You pass on the good things to your children, and you pass on this as well. And it's within that you have that sense of fight that you don't know was there, and it kind of comes out, and now you think about your own life as being different as well.
I'm so glad to hear that Jackson was able to get on those latest medications as they were available, starting with Orkambi, now to Trikafta, which I've heard nothing but glowing reports about. What's a day in the life of Jackson Tarnowski like today?
He lives a very normal life. So if you would look at him, you would never know. So it's a hidden disability in many ways. The day begins with, waking up, and taking these modulators has to be every 12 hours. It should be as close to those 12 hours for it to have the greatest impact on his health. And you have to eat food right away with taking these drugs, and they have to be fat forward. Friends of ours, they'll tell stories about getting their kids up and ready for school or ready for a play date. And, kids, they may eat, they may not. They decide that they don't want this today, or something that is fat heavy or forward. It's not their choice. So you are always kind of being mindful of that, and thinking about what should he eat, when can he eat these things, what does he need without being heavy-handed or being very prescriptive. You want them to have freedom and choice to choose what they're having, so they have agency. But it means managing that right from the moment he wakes up, pretty much. Everything that he eats moving forward, he needs to take pancreatic enzymes to help digest and really get use of the protein that's in any of those foods, because his pancreas is insufficient. It won't work the way it's supposed to. And so you become also a bit of a dietitian in your life. And he's becoming a little dietitian too. I never really looked at food labels. And growing up, you would just have this understanding of, low fat's good. Well, in this case, actually, it's not. We'd prefer things that had more in it. So you're always kind of hunting and searching, looking for things that will work for him, foods that he'll like to have, and you're managing that on a day-to-day. When he was younger, he was taking a nebulizer that had a salbutamol in it, so that his airways were always kind of clear. And so that would be twice a day. We would be giving him chest compression to make sure that the salbutamol was working correctly and would loosen up the mucus that was in his lungs. He's grown out of that now. Chest compressions wouldn't be as effective as they were when he was younger. So now it's taking an inhaler twice a day as well, making sure that he's on those schedules, that he feels now at his age empowered to kind of do some of these things on his own, manage these things on his own, because as he grows up, it will be his responsibility. We won't be there forever to keep up with that care. And so giving him the empowerment, giving him the tools that he needs to be successful in managing this on his own so that he can continue to just have a regular kid life is something that we are constantly aware of. If he's sick, a cough will hang on for too long, you're always kind of on that as well. You don't let that go on for too long before you have to call your CF clinic and get him in there, get him checked out. And then quarterly, he's having regular updates with his team where it's the whole gambit. It's blood test. It is a spirometry test where he's blowing into it to check his lung function there. They're always watching those things, his growth, his height, his weight. And so you get a view of his health and where he's at in his growth. You have your eye on it all the time, and it lives in the back of your mind, even when they're doing well, that something, if it's off, you kind of wonder, is this going to be a trip into the hospital? Is this going to be a stay? Is he going to need to continue to be on antibiotics for longer than he really should as a kid? So those kind of daily routines can culminate and put you in a spot where your guard remains always up all the time. And I'm glad to know that he doesn't see that in his mind. He doesn't feel like he's always guard up, always feeling like he has to be on top of it the same way that we're kind of watching him all the time.
How old is he now?
He's 9. He'll be turning 10.
9 turning 10 this year. And as a family today, Dylan, how do you feel being a part of this community, which has stepped forward and, kind of announced itself as one of the biggest community fundraisers for cystic fibrosis across this entire country? I know it's a pretty close-knit, tight-knit CF community, but even more broadly, this region has really gotten behind this cause. How does that help you as a family?
It means everything. It is one of the best days of the year where we circle on the calendar when the Walk to Make CF History is going to happen on the last Sunday of every May. We've been participating for many years, and to see the community come out and support one another, you'll have those that are living with CF, and you'll recognize them with their blue bandanas, and there's this nod to one another, right? And especially the younger ones that are there, those that are older and living healthy lives today, you get this sense of anything is possible, that we're never going to stop until we find a cure, and we're never going to stop until everyone with CF has the drug therapies that they need, has the support that they need to make sure that their lives have the longest life that they can live, and that they are living their lives to the fullest and to their full potential. We looked up for the first time actually this year, we didn't know that KW led in fundraising efforts right below Hamilton, so we're coming for you. It was great to see that and to be a part of this community where everyone understands where you are at in your life and what your life means. And it is different because it is hidden, it is inside of you, but there is a comfort in knowing that your neighbors have your back and you have a supportive community around you that you can be yourselves with, you can be real with on struggles and hopes and joys, and we're all there for each other through those moments.
Don't let Hamilton fool you. They stole one of our big fundraisers a few years ago. She lives in Dundas now. That helps their efforts down that way as well. But 10 years now, just about into this as a family, Dylan, what continues to give you hope today as a CF family?
Hope comes from the research that we've seen for some of these modulators, the progression that this the research has come for CF has been just exponential from when, in the 1960s, when research really was starting to be dedicated towards cystic fibrosis. And so we feel very confident that there is a bright future ahead of us, that with the support of the community, with the support of CF Canada and of our care teams and fundraisers like yourself and advocates, that one day we can have a cure, or as close to a cure as possible for everybody. And we, in my personal experience, have had wonderful and receptive conversations with our members of provincial parliament, our federal members of parliament, when we can tell our stories and sit down with these folks and make it very real for them. This is what life is like. This was the moment where you hear that you have cystic fibrosis or your child has CF, that they understand this and that they're here for you and that they're willing to go to bat for you where you can't enter the halls of Queen's Park or Parliament to make that argument for yourself. So we have a strong community around us, and we hope that they continue to listen to our advocacy efforts, that they hear our stories, and that they continue to put themselves on the line in many respects and make asks that can be very hard of their government or within opposition to keep the government's feet to the fire. Don't let up on this, because when we lose momentum, we don't know how backsliding could affect really the health and lives of real people today, of over 4,500 Canadians and a subset of that from Ontario that are still waiting for something for them. And we all have hope, and we all have the drive within us to make sure that those folks have those same moments of getting that call that their son or daughter qualifies for one of these drugs. And when we got that call from my insurer that Jackson would get on Orkambi, we were at Smile Tiger Coffee. Guy came out of the coffee shop with a tray in my hand. The phone rang, and I recognized the number, and I picked it up and just stood in the lot. And when they said that your son is approved and that we can start him on Orkambi in the next month, you just sat in the car and you cried again. And those are moments where you think about someone who is waiting should have that moment themselves. No one should be without that moment of hope that it's possible and we'll continue to move forward. And we've seen it happen once before, and we know with the right voices behind us, with the community behind us, it can happen again for the 2 to 3% of those whose genes do not respond to Aleptrek, do not respond to Trikafta today, that is possible if we just keep going forward. And we have to find that inspiration, and we have to remember those that are still waiting and be advocates for them, just as they were advocates for us when Trikafta was on the doorstep, when Orkambi was on the doorstep. They made phone calls too. They showed up as well. And we have to be there for them in that moment, and that their moment is right now.
Our moment is right now until noon tomorrow, okay? Because that's when we're going to wrap up another Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign. And your participation, particularly in our 50-50 raffle now, supports everything that Dylan is just talking about. We are so close. And as Dylan says, others in our community deserve that same phone call and that same hope. Can't thank you enough for being here. My very best to Jackson, of course, and you and your entire family extended as well. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Dylan Tarnowski, father of Jackson, who has cystic fibrosis and is turning 10 great years old this year. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, you heard from Dylan Tarnowski, father of Jackson, who turns 10 this year and lives with cystic fibrosis. I don't know that the impact could be made any better than by Dylan's words a moment ago. Our Farwell for Hire 50-50 jackpot has gone over $143,000. Your share, more than $71,500. You can get tickets at cf5050.ca. And don't forget, our local business community is behind this as well.
Butter tarts,
Reading caution, this car brakes for butter tarts.
Oh, this car brakes for butter tarts. No, the singers aren't part of the business community, but Hefner Lexus Toyota is. And they challenged me to go 30 days without a butter tart. Let's spin the old wheel of butter tarts, find out how many days I have left to go. Please don't be a big number. Just be nice to me. How many days till I can have a butter tart? 18 more days until I can have a butter tart. If I can hold out 18 days, Hefner Lexus Toyota brings $6,500. $6,500 in honor of their 65th anniversary goes to cystic fibrosis research. I just have to hold out for 18 days. But I think our next guest is bringing butter tarts into the studio. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I can see her lying back in her satin dress in a room where you do what you don't confess. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs.
Little bit of Gord's Gold to introduce This Week in Music History this week, which is an in-studio and interactive version. And it's going to be all Canadian music all the time. And just to show you that, I mean, you know that I think, and I know, in fact, that the greatest rock and roll band in the history of rock and roll bands, not just Canadian, but the greatest rock and roll band is Rush. I had the option of playing Rush today. I opted instead for some Gord's Gold, and everybody knows that's Sundown. Brian Allison is our musicologist and joins us in studio this morning. Great to see you, pal. Thanks for coming in.
Awesome to be here.
Last time you were here, it was around the holiday season. You brought Santa hats for us. Today, because Canada Day is Wednesday, you brought Canada ball caps. I love it. And because Brian is in studio, if you would like to talk a little bit of Canadian music, you've got a question you want to ask or just be involved in this conversation, as I said, with Brian in studio, it is interactive as well. Phone lines open at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Maybe it's a concert you saw, a favorite Canadian artist or band. Maybe you want to try Brian on some trivia. I don't know. He'll probably impress you, but nonetheless, phone lines open as we take a trip down a musical memory lane this week, all Canadian. And you know, I think sometimes, Brian, we get underappreciated for what we have brought to the music scene. No?
Well, I haven't had anybody call me yet and say thank you for... You're talking about Canadians as a whole?
Yes, Canadians
as a whole. Oh, God, yeah. We're grossly underrated. I mean, just on the world stage, we've got so many amazing acts, but so many of them don't make a huge splash outside of Canada. You know, we're sort of trapped within these borders. And even bands that are up and coming that try to break in the United States, for example, you know, promoters will say, yeah, music really doesn't mean much down here, which I don't get. But every once in a while we get a breakthrough band. You know, we've got our Rush, we've got our Tragically Hip to a certain degree. Certainly some other great artists, like for sure who you opened the show with today. I mean, that's just an incredible song by Gord.
Absolutely. So yes, we have it uniquely our own in some ways, but others do break across those borders and make international success. Don't forget Brian's Facebook page. It's the same name as we call this segment, This Week in Music History. And let's go a way back, Brian. Let's go back as far as 1915. He's no longer with us, but Lorne Greene was born.
What an incredible Canadian. Lorne Greene. I mean, most people remember Lorne Greene as an actor. Of course, he was on Bonanza, one of the biggest shows that was happening during that time period. But he also was a musician and a singer. And Lorne Greene had a #1 hit with the song Ringo in 1964 that would reach the top spot in the U.S. Billboard Top 100. Only the second time that a Canadian reached the #1 spot on the U.S. Top Billboard 100. Who do you think was the first one?
So if Lauren Green did it in 64, it was before 64.
Briefly before 64.
Oh, wait a minute. Paul Anka.
You got it.
Aha!
Well done.
Just came to me.
Yep. Paul Anka was the first to do it. Yeah. So there you go. It's an incredible legacy for Lauren Green. I remember him best from, there was a series of films that we all saw in school in the 70s that were kind of like Canadian Wildlife Federation films. And he narrated them.
Yes.
And I can still hear his voice saying, this is the Canadian goose, which makes its habitat. And, it was just incredible. So, yeah. But, yeah, a legit artist, a legit number one hit maker. That's pretty incredible.
Okay, this was also a really important week in music history back in 1980. July the 1st. Oh, I wonder then why it's so important.
Well, and I was actually surprised to learn this, that July 1st, 1980 was the date that O Canada officially became the national anthem of Canada. Before this, it was sort of the de facto national anthem, and it officially became the national anthem in 1980 when Canada's National Anthem Act received royal assent. Of course, we need that, and became effective on July 1st, which used to be Dominion Day, now officially known as Canada Day. So there you go. O Canada makes its way into music history by becoming the official song and anthem of Canada.
46 years ago this Wednesday. And listen, we've tweaked the lyrics a little bit here and there, but let's keep singing it before hockey games, please. I love it. I know not everybody does. I still do.
I think it's a great anthem. I think it's distinctly Canadian. It sort of encapsulates everything that we're all about. I don't know that we could do any better, unless maybe we mixed in, a Rush song or something. Tom Sawyer could become a national anthem.
Not a bad idea. I like where you're going with that. Brian Allison, our good friend and musicologist, is with us in studio today. We wanted to make this Canada Day edition of This Week in Music History interactive. So let's get to the phones. Lisa is with us. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Brian.
Hi, Lisa.
Always listen to your segments, and it's always really interesting. I learned something every time you're on. We were talking last week about memories of the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, and I totally forgot that I saw my very first concert there. I think it was New Year's Eve, and it was Triumph.
Awesome.
And Gatto and Saga were supposed to open, and one of those two bands did not show up. I think the weather wasn't the greatest because it was New Year's Eve, but Triumph was amazing. That's one of those bands I could see over and over and over again. Unfortunately, did not work to see them when they were in the area and performing again. But that's one of those bands, and also Lighthouse, which was one of those bands that was amazing. So another Canadian band.
Awesome. I really wish that the Odd would host more concert events. There was a time when, you could see a lot of great bands there and fairly regularly, but that seems to have dropped off a little bit. It would be nice to see them promote or at least get some more shows in town because it's a great venue. It's a spectacular place to see a concert, I think.
Yeah, the challenge, of course, when it first was built, fourth largest in Ontario. Today, not so much. And acoustically, it leaves a little to be desired, particularly compared to the newer buildings. It's as simple as that.
It's a little bouncy. It's an old school barn, right? But, some people like that in a concert. Some people like the old school feel of it. So I know they've had recently have some decent bands through, and I think they should continue to do that. But yeah, it's just what a great venue.
I'm with you 100%. Would absolutely love to see more. We saw Lee Brice this past year. We saw Bryan Adams when he was through a couple of years ago. I saw Elton John when he came through on his smaller town tour. So lots of great shows. And the story you were sharing last week, of course, was that you missed that Kiss show in 76.
Just had to bring that up.
I'm sorry. I know. I'm picking at a scab, aren't I?
My mom said no to her 6-year-old going to see Kiss, and I never forgave her for that.
Well, that makeup threw a lot of parents off.
To her, it was this was the devil's music. You can't take a 6-year-old to that show, so there was no way I was going.
Lisa, love you sharing some memories of those concerts from the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. Let's go back to the phones. Nate is here. Good morning, Nate.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hi, Nate.
Of course, I'm going to bring up a band that's I'm part of the family, and that'd be Saga. First Canadian band to perform on the Behind the Iron Curtain in 1982. over 20 albums, 8 million in sales, Juno for most promising group. And for some reason, they're popular in Germany, Puerto Rico, and Venezuela, not so much in Canada. In fact, On the Loose, their number one song was 26 on the Billboard charts, but it only made it to 46 in Canada here. So I don't know. If they're still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a shame, they're coming up on their 50th year next year. So they're playing.
Saga is fantastic, and they have sealed their legacy as Canadian artists for sure. Just to get that Juno for most promising band, I think that's something that few bands will ever even come close to, is a Juno nomination, let alone a win. So I love that band. I have a few of their albums back from the 80s, and incredible legacy for them as Canadian artists for sure.
Yeah, I just if anyone is interested, just go on the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, and you can go to the bottom and suggest an inductee, and maybe for their 50th anniversary, we can get them into the Hall of Fame.
Now, you said that's in the family, Nate. What's the family connection?
My stepdad's lead guitarist. He's been in my life since I was 10 years old. So
there you go.
Good connection.
As a very good connection. Good to hear from you, Nate, one of our regulars, Farwell's Force member number 8, as we celebrate this week in music history, all Canadian, in studio and interactive with musicologist Brian Allison. We continue on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is a Monday morning, and on Monday mornings, just after the 11 a.m. news, we do This Week in Music History, and we are guided on the journey by our good friend and musicologist Brian Allison. Don't forget the Facebook page, okay? It's the same name, This Week in Music History. You'll find all kinds of tidbits there. Today, two things. With Canada Day being Wednesday, it's all Canadian music that we're talking about with Brian on This Week in Music History. And he's here in studio, right across the studio table for me. We are interactive today as well, taking your calls. And by the way, you brought a box of something. You know I'm on a butter tart ban, right?
Yeah.
I have to abstain until July 17th to earn a $6,500 donation from Hefner's.
But these are custard tarts. That's not a butter tart by definition.
Hefner's, did I find a loophole? Did Brian, our musicologist, find me a loophole? I think he did. A custard tart is not a butter tart.
It's not a butter tart.
I can eat those tarts.
Clearly not. If you went to a store and asked for custard tarts, they're not going to show you butter tarts.
Exactly. I found the loophole thanks to musicologist Brian Allison. Let's get back to the phones. Mark is with us. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. I just want to say this is my favorite segment from the Farwell Show. I listen every time you're on. I learn a lot. And I want to bring up a old Canadian band, Brian. I think they were underrated, and they're a Kitchener band, Copper Penny. They put out some great music. What do you think of that band, Brian?
I do remember the name Copper Penny. Not familiar with a lot of their music, but I know that they have a history in Kitchener for sure.
Sitting on a Poor Man's Throne automatically comes to mind.
Right.
And then
Okay.
I thought Mark was going to mention Helix.
Yes.
Because I got in trouble for that on college radio, Brian. I played Rock You by Helix, and somebody listening somewhere, at the time we were not broadcasting beyond the campus of Conestoga College, just within the halls, the cafeterias, etc., and somebody thought ROCK was a four-letter word.
A different word, yeah.
And they sent complaints, and I'm like, whoa. That's classic, not only Canadian, but local rock and roll. What's the matter with you people?
When we were in high school, true story, we used to go down at lunchtime from St. Jerome's. There was a warehouse somewhere close to Victoria and King Street, and Helix used to rehearse in that warehouse. And we would go down at lunch and lean in the windows, and you could hear them tuning up and playing and running through stuff. And it was really cool to learn. And at that time, that's when they had their biggest hit was Rock You. And that was out around that time. I was like, wow, Helix, they're right here in Kitchener. That's pretty cool. So
it was great stuff.
I will revisit Copper Penny again, though, Mark. Thanks for that tip.
Yeah, Mark's he means it when he says it. He's mentioned it before, and so now you've heard it directly from him that he loves this weekly segment, This Week in Music History.
Thank you.
Walter is with us on the phones too. Hey, Walter.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Walter.
Yes, your last caller, he just stole part of my thunder. I remember I've been able to, or I've been lucky enough to, I go to concerts, since about 1970. So I've seen, quite a few, but I think the most memorable one, because I was the closest, was in the University Center in Guelph in the basement, and it had Copper Penny open, then Max Webster, and then Rush, and we were in the front row.
Whoa, that's amazing!
And it had, the room held about 200, maybe 300 people at the most.
Wow!
And it was, and like me and my buddies, and I got the tickets because I was working there in the mail room. So because I was staff, I had access at first dibs to the tickets, so I got them. And it was awesome. And, like I said, I've seen many, many, many bands after that. But that one brings up the memories, and all three are Canadian, right? So
absolutely. What a
That's
bill
awesome.
that is.
Whoa. I'd
Right?
take a time machine back and see that show any day.
You remember when Rush, they were on the university circuit. The picture has circulated frequently of them in the quad at Wilfrid Laurier back in the early 70s.
For sure. And Max Webster, wow.
I know.
That's an incredible bill.
Speaking of Max Webster, Kim Mitchell playing the Hayloft Music Festival in Listowel, August long weekend.
Nice.
Along with Big Wreck. There's a country show headlined by Kip Moore that weekend as well. But how about it? August long weekend in Listy, the Hayloft Music Festival, and Kim Mitchell, a.k.a. Max Webster, is going to be there.
Awesome. Might have to make my way to that one.
All right, we'll get back on the phones again. Ian is with us. I have a feeling if this is the Ian I think it is, we're going to talk some Rush.
Oh, for sure. Actually, my first big show, 1986, was Supertramp at the Odd, right after Roger Hodgson had left the band, and they released the Brother Where You Bound album. And I just remember them doing Rudy and the video screen behind them with the going through the train tracks and feeling a bit of nausea because of the speed of it. And the volume was incredible, but it was so clear. It was amazing. But in regards to Saga, I actually worked with Ian Crichton in the 90s with the band. And that was a really interesting experience because Ian's an incredible guitar player, and he doesn't read music. He does everything by ear, but his technique is incredible. And I actually worked with Michael Sadler, the singer, at Rush Fest Canada last August. And what a genuine great gentleman he was. And quickly, just to the Kim Mitchell thing, we're opening for Kim Mitchell Canada Day in Woodstock with my band Always on Friday.
Fantastic.
So looking forward. I actually have met Kim when the Lulu's days, when he played out there, and had my bass signed. And Peter Fredette, the bass player, funny enough, got chatting with him. And then a few days later, went on a plane trip to Mexico. And who's on the plane but Peter Fredette with a band that was playing at one of the resorts.
Amazing.
So, you got to love the music industry. It is so well connected, and it's just funny who you run into and everything that way. And you know what? And then one last thing with Canadian bands, saw Triumph in April, absolutely incredible. And of course, with Rush's touring now, all these guys in their 70s, good for them that they're doing this, and they still got it. Music is not something you just lose. It's not a job by any means, and it's so much fun to play. So
good to hear.
Thanks for doing the show.
Thanks, Ian. Really, really nice to hear from you. You know, you talk about those. Like, the thing about Rush, I always come back to is the complexity of that music, Brian. In your 30s, it would have been tough. These guys are still giving it, and I've heard rave reviews from the early shows.
I just watched an interview on the weekend with Anika talking about how she learned the catalog, and I was just like, whoa. Like, imagine learning that. I mean, they're not doing a standard set list every night. They're doing different stuff. They're pulling stuff from way back. She had to learn all that stuff in a matter of months. I just like, wow, incredible. But it just shows what their body of work is and their history. Just an incredible band.
I knew our listeners loved this segment every week. I knew the interactive opportunity would be taken advantage of. But before I let you go, and since we're on the subject of, Rush does make a note this week in music history.
They do. June 28th, 2012, they're inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame. So pretty awesome milestone for Rush to head at that point, too. And I said to you before, I was trying to find some trivia about Rush, but I find that even the most rudimentary basic trivia about Rush, everybody already knows. That's how beloved they are, even by people who don't like their music. People know them as this Canadian band, and when you ask questions like, you know, how did Geddy acquire his first name? How did Alex acquire his last name? What does YYZ stand for? People already know that because they're just so much a part of our Canadian fabric. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2012. Good for Rush.
And one more quick note in our final minute. We started today with some Gord's Gold, Sundown by Gordon Lightfoot, who makes this week in music history.
74. That song hit the number one spot on the Canadian RPM singles chart. So Gord's biggest hit probably that he ever did in his catalog, even though he had some other great songs. That's one he was the most remembered for. There's some scary trivia that's attached to this song. It's connected to the death of John Belushi because the gal who the song was written about was the person who was in the room with John Belushi and shot him up with that fatal dose of cocaine and heroin that ended his life. That song was written with her because she was a romantic interest of Gordon before that. So yeah, kind of a little bit of a dark history to it too.
Yeah, the connections, as Ian was talking about, run deep in music for sure, and people associated with the industry. This absolutely flew by.
Yep.
We'll do it again next week because the folks love it, Brian, and we love that you make the time for it every week. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. I love doing it, and I'm looking forward to next Monday already.
Happy Canada Day.
Same to you, my friend.
Brian Allison is a musicologist, joins us every Monday morning at 11 for This Week in Music History. Don't forget the Facebook page. Same name, This Week in Music History. Look it up, follow along, all kinds of tidbits there, taking you on a musical trip down memory lane each and every week on the show. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Now that cat couldn't spell to win a bet, but he carried this battered notebook full of his poetry. More soul per square word than the Lord's Prayer. He was the kind of guy that called a spade a shovel, and a violin a fiddle, and a lady ma'am. And I don't even know why I think of him now. Maybe because he never told me a lie he'd have to apologize for later. Because he'd speak to a guy straight, eyeball to bloodshot eyeball, like he'd never even had a secret.
He has no secrets. He is David Drewe, and he joins us every Monday morning just after the 11:30 news to share his views in a segment we appropriately call Drew's Views. David is a former Conservative Party staffer. He worked alongside Harold Albrecht when Harold was the MP for Kitchener-Conestoga. And David now operates Negotiating Change, where you can get your help with government relations and stakeholder engagement strategies. Always nice to see you. Good morning.
I have a small quibble with your previous segment.
Brian Allison, our musicologist?
Yes.
Okay.
You were talking about Lorne Greene, and you did not mention his best and biggest role as Commander Adama on the original Battlestar Galactica.
You are such a geek, and I love you for it. I really do.
Like, seriously, it's not just something that I remembered. It's something that genuinely upset me that you missed it. So I am a geek.
I just remember him as Pa on Bonanza. That's it.
Before my time. You're so much older than I am.
I did not pay any attention. I wasn't a big Battlestar Galactica guy, nor a Star Trek guy when I was a kid. Sorry, couldn't get behind it.
We can't all be perfect.
We cannot be. You want to talk about condos in British Columbia by chance?
We were talking about it last week, and I really thought it was going to be a one-off. I really did not expect that this issue was going to have such legs, but it turns out when the bailout is going to somebody who hosted a fundraiser for the Prime Minister that was about $1,700 a pop to get into, mainly attended by other developers, the story got a couple bit more legs.
That sounds eerily similar to Doug Ford and the Greenbelt.
Eerily similar. And you know, again, just like with the Greenbelt, I'm not coming out and saying the RCMP should be looking at this. But the deal already sort of stunk, just on the initial merits of it. And the fact that they announced it without having any details as to what units are being bought, they don't even know like how many of them are going to be 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms yet. Like this deal is so airy-fairy in the air. And they're saying, don't worry about nothing. Oh, well, how's it going to work then? Well, we haven't decided that yet. And yeah. The guy raised a whack load of money for Mark Carney in the last election. So this story still has legs, and it doesn't matter whether Pierre Poilievre gets his hearing at the ethics committee or wherever it is he's asking for. This stinks. I'm not saying anything illegal occurred. There's a generous space of stuff that is smelly but legal in politics. This seems to be one of those things. And until the government, and I'm talking about the federal government in this case, the BC government has a whole lot of explaining to do as well here. Given this is exactly the program that David Eby was criticizing Christy Clark for while in opposition. But the federal government, because, that's who we're looking at here, until they start answering some serious questions and filling in the blanks on this is going to be about a guy who raised lots and lots of money from Mark Carney being bailed out.
So if we fill in these blanks or connect these dots.
If the government fills in the blanks and this plan actually has some merit to it, okay, but if they are going to ask us for our goodwill to trust them, and the only thing we know about it is it's a billionaire condo developer who raised money for the prime minister, that reeks.
Well, and this is where I'm saying you mentioned that there's a lot of space between smelly and illegal in politics. I don't want this to be part of that space. This should not. This smacks of all kinds of things.
Insider play.
Yeah.
Insider play. Now, the only thing I'll say about that is, we're so against it, but we would have lost the war if C.D. Howe had taken that attitude. That was all insider playing. We built an ammunition industry and an arms industry from scratch because he just knew the people to go out and ask. So I do not want to overstate, because, a lot of times in politics, you are rubbing shoulders with people, so it's always going to look like insider. But he hosted a fundraiser for the prime minister, and now he's bailing out your bad business decisions. It just looks bad, and I do not blame Pierre Poilievre for demanding answers. I think he's overstating the problem a little bit. And again, this is my problem with so many politicians, is you have a perfectly good issue. Why do you need to torque it into something that even I am sitting there going, well, we don't actually know that part yet?
And here I thought we were still talking about condos in British Columbia because it had been so poorly explained and communicated from the get-go. Something else we talked about last week, David, that I guess we're going to talk about again, is the great airy-fairy plan for high-speed rail in this country.
And again, we talked about it last week, and it was about the minister. And by the way, since then, he came out and he said he strongly recommends that the route be changed to go through Kingston, as we talked about last week. But that inspired the Globe and Mail. I can't remember which columnist it was off the top of my head, but there was a column, and they were just sort of saying, well, what's the opportunity cost, let's say, of the $90 billion that we're spending on high-speed rail? What if that was to go into commuter transit and local public transit? What would $90 billion do there? Hey, you know what? Our airports and airlines are utterly unsubsidized. What could we do with air travel if we put $90 billion towards that? So if the idea is about getting people around, is this the best use of $90 billion? And it was a very good column. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who are already in favor of high-speed rail who will still be in favor of it with an argument of the sort. I was never really that in favor of it, so this kind of really does appeal to me. But it was all inspired because of a politician saying, hey, engineers, for political reasons, let's change the route without any regard to what the impact on ridership would be. It was just a political thing. And so now we start asking, well, is this really the best use for getting our people around to as we need? Like, is this the best we can do with the $90 billion? And I'm not going to say it isn't, but I really have a whole lot of other ideas that I'd like to fill in the blanks on before we commit $90 billion to this.
I've always loved the idea, quite frankly. Loved. Windsor to Quebec. What's not to love, David?
Communism works in theory, Mike. Okay. What's not to love?
Settle down. But $90 billion. And the fact that now we're talking about a much shorter length of track than Windsor all the way to Quebec, et cetera. It's just, this is nonsensical considering where we're at, in my opinion.
Toronto to Montreal really makes sense. Toronto to Windsor makes a heck of a lot more sense than Montreal to Quebec City does. But we know the politics of it, so...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move west. And I rather enjoyed the cheekiness of the mayor of Calgary and his back and forth with the premier of the province where Calgary is, which is Alberta. And, you know, if Danielle Smith doesn't like it, she can run for mayor or something along those lines. But there's some fighting words between the premier and the mayor of Calgary.
And you got to remember that for the mayor to win the fight, the public has to be on the side. Because otherwise the premier can just go change the rules from on high, like Doug Ford has done a million times. You know, they could do the same thing there and just by provincial ordinance change the city noise bylaw that was the cause of all this friction. So for anybody who hasn't been following, Calgary Stampede, I'm not going to explain what that is, but there is associated music with it. And one of the music tents last year was going on way too loud, way too late for the neighbors. And the other thing to consider is it wasn't even near the main Stampede site. It was in a residential section of town. So the city said, no, you can't go so late. You're going to have to close earlier. And even before that, you're going to have quiet acoustic hours before you fully shut down. So the loud noise stops at a reasonable time for the residents. And it wasn't just the premier. Like, she's the one we're going to focus on. But let's put this in perspective. Pierre Poilievre was dive-bombing this mayor and the city. Michelle Rempel-Garner had a polite exchange with the mayor. Like, you got to understand, the mayor is a small C conservative. He knocked out Jyoti Gondak, who was the darling of the left. So, like, especially Michelle Rempel-Garner, she's like, I know we can do better than this, friend. And it was like just this, but everybody was coming down saying, hey, this is about our culture and that. And it's like, it was hip hop music that has nothing to do with Stampede culture. That was the offending music here. So, but anyway, the premier gets involved and starts telling the city what to do. And the mayor starts off just politely saying, stay in your lane. He ends up on social media chirping the premier with words that I'm not allowed to say on your radio show, Mike. I told you I wouldn't say those words, but I did tell you I was going to talk around the fact that there was some very, very strong language used by the mayor at the premier. And then she seemed to have backed down. So there is something weird going on. And it also seemed weird to me that all these local people who were in favor of the music going, it's like, so you're in favor of the tourists, not the residents. Like, how many of these tourists that you're catering to are going to vote for you in the next by-election?
That's a very good question.
And so I just found this very, very weird fight for the premier and Poilievre and Michelle Rempel-Garner to pick. Because, like, what does victory mean? You cheese off a bunch of Calgarians to please tourists who are going to go home and not even know that there was an issue to be sacrificed here. So I didn't understand the play of it. But the most important thing here is the mayor actually got the premier to back down.
Well, I don't know how much I love the idea that so publicly, I didn't see the social media posts myself, but that so publicly the mayor is using language like that towards another elected official. This is the kind of decorum we're asking, or civility we're asking residents.
To be fair, the language he used was critical of her behavior. So you know what I mean? It's not like he was name-calling. He was talking about the entire conversation. So the language was strong, but just the way you phrased it, people might have been thinking he was calling the premier nasty names, which was absolutely not the case.
I'm just saying you have an opportunity, especially if you're going to post it on social media, for some sober second thought. Use strong language, but you don't have to use curse words.
I'm kind of with you, but I also think this was a late-night tweet, which is also a bad idea.
It is a bad idea.
And it was after days of attack after attack after attack on his integrity for this decision. And that's just it. Like, closing the beer tent early is somehow an issue of integrity now. Like, that's just it. It was so over the top, and I'm just sure he was tired of the whole darn thing and called it out for what it was, and it seems to have worked.
David Drewe is a good friend of the program. He operates Negotiating Change, Government Relations and Stakeholder Engagement Strategies, and he brings the perspective of someone who worked within the Conservative Party of Canada. We'll take a break, come back with more, including a conversation about nuclear reactors in Ontario and a better tent city. with a question mark deliberately. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Monday mornings, 11:30. David Drewe, a former staffer with the Conservative Party of Canada, joins us in studio to share his views on Drewe's views. It sounds a lot like high-speed rail because we're talking about it again, David. A better tent city.
It also seems like high-speed rail because, it's not that anybody sits there and says, I hate the idea of high-speed rail. But again, the question is, are we spending money the best way? And so, Michael Harris, Natasha Salonen voted against. And, I'm sure it's not that they were against ending homelessness. It's a question of, is this the best investment of our finite resources? And I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure it isn't. I don't know how I would have voted if I was on that council. I kind of think I would have voted against. But if the vote were closer, would I still have voted against if I knew that my vote would be a consequential thing rather than a vocalization of concern? I don't know at that point because I don't know what Plan B would have been for a better tent city. I don't know, you heard Jillian Ickham talking about how the region taking over means no more visitors and bed checks and this and that. We have different categories of rights if we're homeless. But, what if the region didn't take it over because the volunteers had said they could no longer manage it themselves? So what would Plan B have been? Just to let these people squat unfunded in this place with no more funding and maintenance, no wraparound services? I have no idea.
That's the problem I have with it, because you really didn't have a choice other than to fund it. But to Natasha Salonen's points, and she has seen the Herbs Road encampment with the rules that are in place, but talked about the outcomes, and 1 in 4 residents who have passed through have moved on into stable housing. So the question becomes, how permanent is a site like this? And I think Michael Harris's point is a fair one, too. When you're looking at about $130,000 being spent per resident, there are lots of people in the region of Waterloo struggling right now that would do very well with that kind of money invested in them.
Skill and Charybdis, and that's just it. And this is where it goes back to the high-speed rail again. What else could we do with the money? Could we be doing something that maybe doesn't impact as many people, but has a better impact on those we get through? Is there a better way? Is there are we are we chasing the right goals by putting up this transitional housing? Do we have the resources to do anything more to get to the root causes? I don't know that the city does, but I'm glad I wasn't at the Horseshoe.
It was tough.
Because honestly, I think no matter how I voted, I would have felt like I voted the wrong way.
One of the things I like best about it, we're talking $8 million, $6 million of which is annual funding, but at least I can see it. I can see the tiny cabin community. I can see what it's doing. I want to know about the other $65.5 million, David. That's what I want to know about. Where in HE double hockey sticks is that money?
Yeah, just because we don't see money being spent doesn't mean it's not being spent well.
I just want to know then.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah.
And anyway, I am very tactile and tangible on this point for sure. But
I like feeling my pennies.
Yes. Exactly. All right. Nuclear reactors. There's a new nuclear strategy, and the feds and the province were together in Newmarket last week to announce it.
And boy, oh boy, it sounds like I am that guy who's going to come out here and be praising Mark Carney again. He is doing all the things I have wanted our governments to be doing for so long. If you want to deal with climate change, you need more nuclear power. If you want to be using more renewables, believe it or not, you need more nuclear power, because we are not at the point where we have the battery storage to maintain solar for the cloudy days or wind for the non-windy days. We can't bottle that and package it. So we need that base capacity so that we can then use the wind and the solar to supplement when it's available and cheap. But we're not going to be having any more large-scale hydro. We are no longer at the point where we are going to reroute major waterways and create new flood zones, et cetera, for hydropower. Where we have the opportunities to do it without disruption, again, we have the line loss issue. So to get that power from the waterfalls near Moosonee down to southern Ontario where it's needed, The lines are so huge at that point, and look at how much ground you have to cut through, et cetera, et cetera. So where's it going to come from? Well, natural gas, sure. But that is kind of something we want to be moving away from, because as much as it's cleaner than coal or oil, it's still carbon emitting, whereas nuclear is zero. So the idea that we are actually going to not only invest in this for our own sakes, but renew an export charge on this, because the CANDU reactors don't use enriched uranium. So that is a major, major feature for a lot of companies or countries that want to get into this safely. And then the idea of the small modular reactors that they're looking at as an export opportunity, they're talking about tripling the number of jobs in the nuclear sector. And when you look at Ontario, this could be something we really, really need to replace our auto industry, which seems to be in a bit of threat. So hopefully this strategy turns into more than process and we actually get something out of it. So yeah, nothing yet but words. But they're all the right words, Mike. So I'm happy that the words are where we start. Because if you don't start there, where do you start?
I couldn't agree more. I liked those words too. And let's not forget the city of Cambridge is very well positioned in this regard with its sort of in-house, in Cambridge nuclear facilities. They just had a summit there last week.
Oh, I did not even know this.
Lots of capability right in Cambridge. So there you go.
Yes.
David Drewe joins us Monday mornings, 11:30, to share his views on Drewe's Views. Thank you, sir. Happy Canada Day.
How did we do for time?
We're done.
Perfect. Happy Canada Day.
This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
And on that note, we are off and running for another Monday here on the program. Your final hour of the show every day is reserved for your thoughts, your opinions, your comments. And on Mondays, in keeping with a long-standing tradition on this show, Monday's open line hour is called Rant or Rave. You rant because you're upset about something, you are shaking your fist at the clouds, or you rave because you're feeling pretty darn good about whatever that thing is. Sing someone's or something's praises. And you can do either of those things simply by making a phone call to us. Get it off your chest and onto the air with a rant or a rave at 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. The email address, the inbox is always open, mike@570news.com, but it is always more interesting when you make a phone call and start a conversation, and it can be about whatever it is that's got you ranting and or raving today. As you heard with Matt Hutchison in the noon update, we have less than 24 hours remaining in the Farwell for Hire 50-50 raffle. So if you're tired of hearing about it, take some comfort in the fact that as of tomorrow at this time, we will not be talking about it anymore. We will be, however, making a phone call to the winner. And that winner could be you if you have a ticket. Our take-home prize, now more than $72,000. The overall jackpot, now more than $144,000. That is up about $7,000 from where it started today. So the take-home prize up $3,500 from where it began the day. Last year, we awarded the winner more than $121,000. Even at $72,000, you're doing pretty darn well. But 121, add another 50 or so to that, and oh boy, like we are into life-altering kind of money. at this point. And remember, there are additional incentives. It seems almost inevitable at this point, given the way the jackpot is moving, that I will be eating increasingly hot chicken wings on the show while I continue to try and host it. So how that sounds and what that ends up being like remains to be seen. But if the jackpot reaches $150,000, I will be doing that. Somebody will be feeding me the wings. I will keep trying to host the show, and I will do it all while wearing a jersey of the team that shall not be named. If the jackpot gets to $200,000 or a $100,000 take home, I take it another step further, and I make the team that shall not be named my team for next season. I will cheer for them. And this has generated quite a bit of concern among fans of the team that shall not be named, thinking if I bring my Leafs luck over to that team, then that team's going to have a bad season. And then, of course, my fellow Leafs fans are wondering what on earth I was thinking and why I would turn my back on my team. Well, I'm not really. Just for a season, I guess I am turning my back on them, but this is for a charity that means a whole lot to me and to my family. So I've decided I will do whatever it takes to raise money. And listen, if you're into really embarrassing me, if the jackpot makes it to $250,000 or a take-home prize of $125,000, I will wear that jersey of the team that shall not be named while walking in the annual KW Oktoberfest Thanksgiving Day Parade this fall. So, and then free reign to you if you're attending that parade on the Thanksgiving weekend in October. Have at it, because I'll be the village idiot wearing that jersey in the parade. So there is some extra incentive if you want to embarrass me and or make me suffer in some way. But really, it's about raising as much money as we can for cystic fibrosis research. Tickets can be had at cf5050.ca. And I thought I would share this email with you from Kim. Kim sent this email last week. You know how I feel about AI. I'm not a big fan. I don't use any of those things that apparently make your life so great. But Kim did run through AI and said, and I think this is AI giving us the Captain Obvious answer, but winning the Farwell for Hire 50-50 is far better. The odds of that are far better than winning either the Lotto Max, 1 in 33 million, the Lotto 649, 1 in almost 14 million. And of course, the number of tickets you have versus the number of tickets sold is where you increase your odds. But either way, if you are buying tickets in a 50-50 raffle, not only are you supporting a charity at the same time, but your odds of winning, and winning a significant amount of money, right now more than $72,000, those odds are far better if you are playing a 50-50 versus playing one of the big lotteries. If you want to listen to the AI and what Kim said, fine by me. Let's get to the phones here on Rant or Rave. We'll start with Harold. Good afternoon, Harold.
Good afternoon.
What's on your mind?
I'm going to complain about our stupid city council people everywhere that do dumb things like not put in speed controls on a road where people die, or take out photo radar. So I'm going to tell you how you fix everything. So what you do is you put in freaking stop signs. You put the stop signs in front of the schools, and then on top of the stop sign, you put a photo radar unit. So anybody that's doing 40 kilometers an hour, 100 feet after a stop sign, definitely deserves a ticket. Otherwise, if they had stopped, they couldn't be going that fast. Same thing for this road where people are dying. Put some stop signs on it, put a photo radar unit on top of each one of them, and people won't be racing down that road anymore, period. Stop signs fix everything.
All right, Harold, I appreciate the call and the sentiment. Stop signs fix everything, says Harold. I want to agree wholeheartedly. I'll agree to a point. I've seen far too many stop signs treated as stoptional signs, and I worry a little bit, absent the enforcement. And look, this is where I will come towards Harold's argument on speed cameras. Clyde Road, which is what we talked about on the show earlier today, is a perfect example of where a speed camera would be a terrific disincentive to speeding, a deterrent to speeding, I would think, because think of all the people that would get caught. The problem with speed cameras in this community is the way we rolled out the program, and we activated them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and you can say whatever you want. That was a cash grab. Full stop. In fact, excellent reporting using a Freedom of Information request. That's what the Waterloo Region Record had to do to get the numbers from the region. Imagine that. Your local government shields from you the amount of money it collected from speed cameras, hiding behind Freedom of Information. I do not understand how they could have made that argument. The Waterloo Region Record files it and learns that $12.5 million, $12.5 million was generated by those cameras in this community. But the fact that they were running them all day, every day, and arbitrarily, I will say again, in my humble opinion, lowering speed limits to 30 or 40 on some roads, forget about it. But you want to put a speed camera on Clyde Road where people have died, including one very recently, I am all for it. Do whatever you need to do to calm the traffic on that road. And North Dumfries Township Council had better figure it out and figure it out quick. The fact that they're conducting a road safety analysis is bonkers to me. Residents have spoken. They know. They've told you what the problems are on that road. Liam is next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Liam.
Good afternoon, my friend. It's been a long time since we last spoke, so since I had the day off today, I figured I'd call in.
I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
This is about how I feel because after seeing the Kitchener Rangers win the Memorial Cup, I have to say it's definitely feels amazing and stuff, but I think this year alone, every team, despite other than the Maple Leafs, have been incredible, really, with the Toronto Marlies winning the Calder Cup and then Canada into the round of 16 for the first time in history yesterday. Boy, was that a amazing game to watch, really, and seeing the country come together.
Team Canada has made us proud. There's no question about it.
For sure. And I really think that the only way we're going to, though I have to say, I think we're only going to be able to beat the Dutch if they decide to go easy on us, really. If maybe we should remind them that what we did with them in World War II, but maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. I mean, I'd probably be more curious about playing the Dutch versus Morocco just because it's the relationship our countries have had in our history, really.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from, and if you want to lean on that history, I can see why you'd lean on the Dutch and hope they go easy on us because of how well we have treated them historically in global relations and support in conflict. But no matter which team we play on Friday, July the 4th, that's the next game for Team Canada, be it Morocco or the Netherlands, we are going to be the underdogs. But hey, what a run so far. We are off to the round of 16. Terry is next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Terry.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Kyle was funny on Friday when he called in. He's made a good reference. Now you can have the rivalry, the battle for the toilet seat against the toilet paper.
Yes, we could.
And one thing here, Mike, you should sweeten the pot a little bit when you wear that jersey of that team that you don't like. You should have it personalized. The number 1 with the nameplate of the Fars or Farzy. How's
Easy. I don't know about that, Terry. I don't know about that. I think I'm going to borrow my wife's jersey and just go with that.
Oh, I don't know. I think you make yourself a bigger name by doing that. And Mike, you know the history of that new Leafs general manager. You know his background, right?
I do.
Him and his family, they operate or own 60 some odd Wendy's restaurants. I don't know if you're aware of that.
So does scheduling fast food employees make you a better NHL general manager?
Well, but take this for something to think about. They could probably put a Wendy's outlet at the Scotiabank Arena. They can charge $29.99 for a single burger combo, and then if the Leafs end up losing that particular game, the fans can take the Wendy's bag, punch a couple holes in it, and put it on their heads.
Okay, Terry, I hear where you're coming from.
A little bit of everything. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I just had to make a comment on Kyle's remark there, which is, I thought it was funny. But anyway, some people might not, but that's my take on it. Anyway, Mike, thanks, and have yourself a good day.
Thanks, Terry. Good to hear from you today. Look, the logo of the team that shall not be named will always and forever resemble a toilet seat. There's no two ways around that. And speaking of the jersey and sweetening the pot, I'm not going to personalize it, but as Russell asks via email to Mike at 570news.com, can we throw fruit and vegetables at you in the parade as I walk the parade route wearing that jersey this Thanksgiving Day weekend? That's only if the jackpot, first of all, reaches $250,000. So there's a ways to go. Jackpot now just past $145,000. So it's moving fast today, up almost $8,000 just since this morning. I would be fine, truly, if you threw fruits and vegetables at me. I don't think I should encourage that kind of behavior, though, during our very civilized and celebratory KW Oktoberfest Thanksgiving Day Parade. Maybe you could just throw a few insults my way, okay? And keep them clean because it's a family event. But listen, I got nothing to hide. I'm going to be out there wearing that jersey looking like a dope anyway. This is Rant or Rave, a Monday tradition on the Mike Farwell Show. We continue on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. On Mondays, your Talkback Hour is for your rants or raves. Rant because you're upset about something. Rave because you've got a smile on your face. You want to sing someone's or something's praises. You do either of those things just by calling us. Back to the phones we go for Jeff. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hi, Mike. I just wanted to call with a rant. I'd like to rant about the Friday 4 panel that you had on last week, where most of them were expressing their opinions on guns and how they should be just, some of them said, even just banned completely. I enjoy shooting, and I am, in my 50s, not actually far off your age. And now I don't have the opportunity as a Canadian citizen to actually go out and get a restricted firearm to have a handgun. I've always been a hunter since I was, very young of age. And now I have a little bit more expendable money as a an adult, and that pleasure's been taken away, and I won't have the opportunity now as a Canadian citizen
to shoot a handgun. Is that
correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I no longer. So I guess I could shoot one if I went to I think there's the new place in Cambridge.
Range 519. Yeah.
Yeah. But I belong to a club close to Maryhill, and I don't actually own a handgun now, but now I'm restricted completely of owning one.
Listen,
and having the opportunity to shoot them.
And I hear where you're coming from, and I am, believe you me, fully supportive of firearms owners' rights in this country. I think we have tremendous controls and the programs that have been put in place that make it more and more onerous on legal registered firearms owners, I think, are frankly unfair and misdirected. That said, that's what the Friday 4 Roundtable is for. It allows people to share their opinions, which they did, and you are sharing yours now, and I appreciate that.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you calling in. I have long said the problems that we have with firearms in this country are not problems being caused by legally registered firearms owners. I believe that from the very bottom of my heart. And so I get it. But the policies that have been announced again and again federally when it comes to firearms have all been just feel-good initiatives to make us think that something is being done about those nasty, wasty firearms owners. But I've gotten to know plenty of those firearms owners in my lifetime, and they are the furthest thing from nasty, wasty. They follow the rules. They are extremely well vetted. And the conversation we were having during the show on Friday was around the shootings of police officers and the violence around policing. And a couple of our guests expressed, yes, a distaste with firearms, the very existence of firearms, which is their right to say, and their opinion, they're entitled to that. Jeff obviously feels differently and shares that this afternoon, and that's what the show is all about. Let's hear different sides of stories. Preston Paul is next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Farwell's Force, member number 45.
Good afternoon, Mike. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, pal. Thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. I got a rave and a suggestion.
Okay.
The rave is, thank God the weather is summer again.
Hey.
Oh, this is beautiful.
I'm with you, Paul. What a nice weekend to keep it coming.
Yes, I totally agree. My suggestion is, if you have to eat those wings, hot wings on the air, and I hope you do, should get the shirt or the jersey that shall not be named, use that as your bib, and then we can auction that off later, and maybe you can sign it or put your name on the back or something like that, and it'd be a nice little keepsake for somebody. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you know what, Paul? I think that's a pretty interesting idea. I like the idea of raising some more money, which I presume we would do. Actually, now you got me thinking, because I was teasing my beloved because I'm going to wear her jersey, and I was saying I'm just going to wipe my sauce off my face and do all the other things with her jersey, which she is adamant that I shall not do. So, of course, I won't because, you know, happy wife, happy life and all of that. But I guess if I did get a brand new one, maybe we could personalize it. And, well, I'll think on that. Either way, that's coming. And the other thing, because the jackpot will reach $150,000. It might reach it by the end of the day. It might reach it by the end of the show, the way the jackpot's moving. One of the other things I will take is your advice on how to deal with the incredibly hot wings and hot sauces I'm going to be ingesting, because I'm a big spice baby. I'm not a spice girl. I'm not even a spice boy. I'm a spice baby. Can't stand hot food. So if you've got any help or advice for me, I'll take that. And on the hot weather, it couldn't have come at a better time for yours truly. Not just because I like it better hot than cold, but for another reason, which I'll share with you coming up as we continue Rant or Rave on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is a Monday, and that means your Talkback Hour is set aside for your rants and or raves. Our good buddy Preston Paul, a Farwell's Force member in good standing. We are a force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. And Paul mentioned before the 12:30 news that it's about time we got some summer weather. I know Paul likes to sit outdoors and enjoy this show on a day like today. I'm with you, buddy. I can picture it now. Love me some hot weather. And this really hot weather could not have come at a better time, because on Wednesday afternoon at the Wilmot Canada Day celebrations, I have been tricked into, I'm going to put it that way. I was tricked. I was bamboozled. I have been bamboozled into sitting in a dunk tank. So I will be in Wilmot for your Canada Day celebrations, looking forward to Canada Day and celebrating all things about this great nation of ours. But sitting in a dunk tank was not exactly on my list of things to do this Canada Day. I was going to listen to some Canadian music. I was going to sit outside and enjoy the hot weather. I was going to probably drink a wobbly pop or two. I was going to go see Glass Tiger in downtown Kitchener. Now I'm going to spend part of my afternoon in a dunk tank. But if the weather's going to be as hot as it is, doesn't sound so bad. It's still the part, though, I can't stop thinking about that feeling when that bench that you're sitting on goes out from beneath you and you plunge into that water. I don't want any part of that. Maybe you've got bad aim and you're all just going to miss the target. I don't know. But anyway, 1:15 Wednesday afternoon at the Wilmot Canada Day celebrations, I have the first shift for the dunk tank. So if you're around and you feel like you've got good enough aim to hit that target, then feel free to dunk yours truly. At least it's going to be hot outside. All right, back to the phones here on Rant or Rave. Grant, good afternoon.
Oh, Mike.
I know. I got bamboozled, Grant. What can I tell you?
And I think if I was going to that parade, I would bring extra rotten
tomatoes.
Oh, you mean the KW Oktoberfest Thanksgiving Day Parade, where I might be wearing the jersey of the team that shall not be named.
Yeah, and I think you should do another challenge.
How many challenges do you want me to do, Grant? Well, you got to get the jackpot going first. Did you buy tickets yet?
No, and have Kyle and a couple of your other culprits there and lock you in the room and have them do this repetitively for 2 hours. Name your team that you totally dislike. Yeah, I think that would be just so hilarious. And then also this hot challenge. They should add another element to it that there's no bathroom break.
No bathroom breaks? What are you doing to me?
Well, you said you want to do this thing, so yeah, you got to make it a little bit more challenging.
I don't know how it can get much more challenging than it already is, Grant, but what I do want to do with every fiber of my being, what I do want to do is raise as much money as possible for cystic fibrosis research. That is what I want to do. I don't really want to do any of the challenges, but they are incentives so that you can see me suffer and embarrass me a little bit along the way. And I recognize it comes with the territory. If I'm the one that says he wants to raise as much money as possible and I'm willing to do anything to raise that money, then I get it. I do not do well with spicy food, so heaven help me, but we're going to get to that jackpot. It's just over $146,000 now. Take-home prize more than $73,000. When, it's no longer if, when the jackpot reaches $150,000. So the Hot Ones Challenge is on. Increasingly hot chicken wings while wearing a jersey of the team that shall not be named. If you keep this pace going, because it's been moving fast, this jackpot today, you get it to $200,000. The team that shall not be named becomes the team that gets named next year. And I cheer for them. And then if it gets to $210,000, which it probably will, then the Leafs will become the team that shall not be named for all of next NHL season. I sold way too low on that. And finally, if it's $250,000, I will wear the jersey of the team that shall not be named while walking in the KW Oktoberfest Thanksgiving Day Parade, and Grant wants to bring a whole bunch of rotten tomatoes. You got to get the jackpot there first. And remember, it's fun. I'm willing to be embarrassed and suffer, both physically while eating the hot wings and emotionally while cheering for the team that shall not be named and wearing their ugly, pitiful hockey jersey. But the other side of that coin is the take-home prize. Like, it's already $73,000. If we reach the top end of those incentives, the take-home prize will be $125,000. That's how much money you could win. And, of course, that's how much money Cystic Fibrosis Canada would get. So get in on the fun. There are less than 24 hours left. 23 hours and 19 minutes to go. Get tickets right now at cf5050.ca, and we'll see how this jackpot does. Ticket sales close at noon tomorrow. We will call the winner live on the air just after that. Jason is with us on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Jason.
Hey, Mike. 125,000 would be great for my re-election campaign. I'll throw that out there.
I think that would go beyond spending limits, wouldn't it?
I think you're right. Yes. Hopefully, nobody from the clerk's office is listening.
There you
Anyways,
go.
I got a rant and a rave. I want to rave to the BIA, the downtown BIA, putting up the board at the Kitchener Market for this World Cup. I was down there with a few other friends yesterday, and the atmosphere was fantastic. It was packed, tons of energy, lots of, cheering on, obviously, for Team Canada. A few vendors were open. They had a bar in there. It was a fantastic and a perfect venue to host a couple hundred people to watch Canada yesterday. My rant though is it's too darn hot. I don't care what you say. I hate the heat. It's too hot. It can cool down a little bit right now. I'm just boiling here. I hate the heat.
Jason, somebody...
That's all I got.
No, hang on. Just one sec before I let you go. I respect it, okay? And everybody's different. That's fine. But I saw somebody post on social media earlier today a picture of a snow-covered Highway 401 and said, "This is your city in 5 months." Think about that, pal, before you start talking about it getting cooler. Come on now.
You know what, though? If you're cold, I tell my girls, my kids all the time, like, put a sweater on. Like, I can bundle up in the winter. I could be butt naked in the summer, and I'm still dying of heat. The ginger in me hates the heat. See you, Glass Tiger, on Wednesday, Mike.
See you, Jay. Good to hear from you. Hey, downtown Kitchener's got its party on, eh? Those watch parties. How about the East Coast Kitchen Party that's happening tomorrow evening? Sounds like an absolute blast, and that's just a warm-up for the big Canada Day celebrations in downtown Kitchener. Glass Tiger will headline. It's a great day of free events. I mentioned I'll be in Wilmot between 1:15 and 1:45. I'm sitting in the dunk tank, and Wilmot always does a great job with the Canada Day celebrations. So lots to look forward there as well. I do miss Columbia Lake. I can't be the only one that misses Columbia Lake. Am I the only one that misses Columbia Lake? I don't think I'm the only one that misses Columbia Lake. And a big, old-fashioned community fireworks display. I know the drones are cool and stuff, and they do fancy things, and maybe you set them to music. Meh. I like a little bit of snap, crackle, pop in my life, and I'm not just talking about Rice Krispies, you know? Anyway, Waterloo, though, on Thursday is having a nice uptown Waterloo vendor market and an evening entertainment from the library up there, and just a great opportunity to be outdoors and see the uptown area. So all kinds of things going on. Hespeler Village in Cambridge closes down Fridays now for pedestrian-friendly activities and shopping and whatnot. Lots of great opportunities clear around our community. The Canada Day Parade's a big deal in Preston, too. Let's not forget about that. I could just go on. You don't need the list from me. I know you know what's going on in your community as the holiday on Wednesday approaches, but just sharing some other things. And Jason, don't worry. It'll be plenty cold way too soon. And then I can go back to complaining and you can go bundle up. Put on all your layers. That's fine. You'll need them to drown out the sound of me complaining and kvetching that it's so ding-dang cold out there. I can't stand the cold. I can't stand it. Andre is next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Andre.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'll say it simply. I have a big rave. My big rave is, I'm going to spare my words, but if you can replay, but you can't because it takes too long, that not everybody is a jackwagon. I listen to the show every day, and last week, there's many times when I call and I say to you, what you do for our community and what you do for yourself, and even to what you put in. Just like today, you said you're not going to wear your wife jersey if people are going to pitch stuff because, you know, that's your wife. What I want to say is not everybody's jackwagon. I listened to Eric last Friday, and oh my goodness gracious, right? I can feel that you had almost tears to your eyes, Mike, and that's my rave. And I can't wait for you to do your show on the beach at the cottage. Take care, Mike, and have a lovely, lovely beginning summer.
Thank you, Andre. I appreciate that. The Eric to whom Andre refers is Eric Cuttis, the president and founder of TLC Pet Food in New Hamburg. TLC Pet Food has been a tremendous supporter of our Farwell for Hire fundraising initiative for many, many years now, to the tune of more than $100,000 donated to our Farwell for Hire fund, which in perpetuity, as in forevermore, continues to generate money for cystic fibrosis research, helping families in our community who are navigating a life with this disease. We had Dylan Tarnowski in studio earlier today. He was talking about his son Jackson and their diagnosis and living with cystic fibrosis. Jackson is turning 10 this year. He's doing really well, thanks in no small part to people like Eric and the fine folks at TLC Pet Food. And the Not Everyone is a Jackwagon segment is something we do on the show every day around 10:20. I'm rarely perfect at hitting it right on 10:20 in the morning, but you'll be able to hear it. And it's a reminder to you that, hey, there are good people out there, along with the people that we sometimes rant about, which we do every Monday from noon until 1. It's Rant or Rave on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is your Monday Talkback Hour, which means it is reserved for your rants and or raves. Let's get right back to the phone lines for Paul, Farwell's Force, member number 331. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Mikey, how you doing?
Real good, thanks. How are you?
I'm excellent. I got a rant and a rave, and I think it covers the same topic here. Is my wife and I went to cruise night on last Friday. It was excellent downtown Kitchener, right? But the people that were there, the Ranger fans that were there, wearing our Ranger blue colors, is unbelievable. I was just wondering, is there any possible way downtown Kitchener we can still get this going?
What do you mean?
Like a flag, a Ranger flag downtown Kitchener. Remember when we had the parade farm, we had the Memorial Cup banner and everything else? We get a flag down in Kitchener to really tell this team that we're behind them for the whole season.
Oh, you mean like a permanent flag being flown somewhere in the downtown?
Yeah, I would love to see that. Don't you think that'd be a great idea?
You know what? It's not a bad idea, Paul. There must be some street post or something where something permanent could be done. I certainly think that the parade that was held and the big celebration at Carl's Air Square the day after the team got back from the Memorial Cup in British Columbia, I mean, thousands of people packed the downtown. I think that was a great show of support, letting these young men know exactly how we felt about them. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. We are a Rangers town after all. The team's name is the Kitchener Rangers. Maybe we could find a permanent place for something. Maybe an enterprising business would like to display a flag like that just to let you know that they are Kitchener Rangers fans and or Kitchener Rangers friendly. Not a bad idea. Alex is next on Rant or Rave. Hello, Alex.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I don't know it's a rant or rave. There's a huge story out of the UK the last week or so. Was a report put out, and I've not seen much of it here at all, and it baffles me. According to this report, there was up to 250,000 young girls raped, murdered, and turned into basically sex slaves in the UK, and the entire government organization turned a blind eye to it. This report just come out. They're going to do another one because there's so much outrage here. But I remember the Me Too movement in the States. That was all over the news up here. This is 250,000 young girls that were raped and murdered.
Well, I just want to be careful here, Alex, because I have heard some stories along these lines, but as I'm looking at a fact check at this moment, the number that you are citing of $250,000 is not a true figure.
Oh, there's some say it was only 50,000. Does that make a difference?
No, I'm not. As I said, I have heard stories along these lines, and so I'm just letting you know that the number that you are citing of 250,000 is.
Okay, so let's say 50,000. The report said 250, so I'm just going by that. But okay, say 50,000. 50,000 young girls raped?
No, 50 would be too many, Alex. I'm with you. I'm with you on the point.
Why is that not huge news? Is my point.
Well, I mean, you are sharing it because you have read the report. So I guess it is news. The National Post. The National Post is covering it.
But very little. I mean, this should be a massive story everywhere.
Well, okay, so Alex, I get it, and I accept the criticisms of us not covering in greater depth the stories that you want to hear covered. It is imperfect even in the 24-hour-a-day news cycle and the fact that we do hours and hours of news every day. I'll tell you this, from the schools where we learn about this business, the idea is when you start a newscast, you begin with the story that has the greatest impact on the greatest number of people. And I'm not diminishing in any way what is happening in the UK and the frightening statistic around these numbers of young women being raped or sex trafficked. I'm not diminishing that in any way. But when you're a station based in the region of Waterloo, how many miles away from the epicenter of this story, our focus is always on more local issues. What's happening in the region, what's happening in the province, what's happening in this country. And I think you would agree there's plenty of that already too. So again, I hear your criticism. I accept your criticism. We cannot be all things to all people. but we continue to do our damn best. And obviously, if you want greater depth on this particular story, I'm sure there are lots of UK publications that are providing that context for you that you are able to read and or otherwise consume. Walter is next on Rant or Rave. Hello, Walter.
Hello there, sir. Yes, as you were just talking about your far-reaching message, I'm just passing Weavers up here, and I'm still getting you loud and clear.
Get out!
Yeah, I'm just passing Weavers here now.
So you're up on Highway 11 right now?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, stop for a hamburger. It's lunchtime.
I wouldn't stop in there if it was the last place on the highway.
What is the matter with you? That's a tradition.
I've been coming up this way all my life, and I've just seen the price get way out of hand, and the quantity for what you get and the quality has gone south. Anyways, Mike, I just wanted to say that maybe things are looking up now, for you and your Leafs there. Either that John Chaika is going to be the smartest man in hockey with these moves that he's making, or he is going to be run out of town. And as a guy that actually can remember the last time they won a cup and used to have all the hockey cards and all the regalia, I hope to see it again. But I wish them all the luck, buddy.
Yeah, we wish them all the luck too. I think the better outcome, or the most likely outcome, is him being run out of town, because that's what we do to people within the Toronto Maple Leafs organization. Please buy a 50-50 ticket. By the time I get back to work tomorrow morning, there will be about 3 hours to go. Get your tickets at cf5050.ca. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.